Why? So when you get shifted, you ask 100 questions. Yeah. On a more serious note, the instability in a way doesn't faze me.
The asbestos corruption trial is set to resume at the Bloemfontein High Court this morning, but with one less accused on the indictment. Former Free State Premier Ace Magashule's ex-secretary, Moradi Cholota, will no longer face corruption charges in the matter after the court overturned her extradition from the United States. Nogukanya Mtambo has the details.
After spending months on the cold and stiff benches in court pondering her future as she faced corruption charges, Moradi Cholota will likely be watching today's proceedings from the comfort of her own home. Cholota was initially pulled into the case as a state witness before prosecutors charged her in what she says was a witch hunt against her former boss Ace Magashule. The state in the asbestos corruption trial will now have to make its case against Magashule and 16 others without Cholota as a witness or as an accused. NPA national spokesperson Mthunzi Mhaga.
The prosecution team has conceded, and you should give them credit for that. It is clinical to concede as a legal officer of the court. That's a demonstration of sincerity and bona fides and integrity on the part of the prosecution team.
He says this loss will have no bearing on the main trial. Nogukanya Mtambo, Eyewitness News in Bloemfontein.
The Gqeberha High Court has been shown the exact locations where apartheid special branch police allegedly surveilled the Cradock Four before abducting and assassinating them in 1985. The court went on an on-site inspection yesterday where Judge Tshidi Madia was taken into the streets of Cradock and shown significant locations related to the lives and deaths of the activists. On Monday, the third inquest into the killings of Matthew Goniwe, Fort Galata, Sparrow was reopened. Khomotso Modise has more.
There were no robes and leather chairs for Judge Tshidi Madia and the lawyers involved in the Cradock 4 inquiry as they were taken into the streets of the suburbs and the local township Lingelihle. Matthew Goniwe's nephew Mbulelo narrated for the court how his family learned that special branch police would stand on a nearby hill and surveil the Goniwe home with binoculars.
We procured our own binoculars and we looked at this direction. Then we saw the police special branch.
Mbulelo Goniwe also told the court that they found recording devices at the local Langelihle Hall where the Cradock 4 would lead ANC meetings. The family also believed that the landline phone in the Goniwe home was tapped, forcing them to have private conversations only in the kitchen, which could be closed off to the rest of the home. Khomotso Modise, Eyewitness News in Cradock in the Eastern Cape.
And some opposition parties in the Gauteng legislature remain critical of the Finance MEC Lebogang Maile's revised provincial budget, even after adjustments were made. Maile retabled the budget yesterday to accommodate key changes in the province's projected revenue. An additional 886 million rand has been added, bringing the total projected revenue to 172 billion rand for the current financial year. EFF provincial chairperson Nkululeko Dunga says Maile's budget does not reflect the true state of the province.
I think the priorities on the budget are skewed on the basis that you have 1.2 billion or so that is allocated for the provincial legislature and for political parties, while you still have about 240 million that is allocated towards housing. Understanding the challenges, a sound decision would have been to allocate 1.2 billion to housing and then 200 million to political parties.
The DA's Ruhan Robinson says budget allocation could have been done better.
But all in all, many of our concerns stay exactly the same as with the previous budget. It is the enormous allocation of almost 5.5 billion rand to pay for e-toll debts, which we do not believe and we still maintain are not for the province's books. We shouldn't be paying that money.
Gold is trading at $3,351.58 an ounce. The rand is at 17.87 to the dollar, 24.14 to the pound, 20.31 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $64.63 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we've got an accident reported on the M1 South. It's right near Ethel Oaklands Road. It's causing delays. Please be on the lookout there. And traveling on the N3 North, some delays between Marlborough Drive and the Buccleuch interchange.
A fine Wednesday in store for Gauteng today, temperatures peaking at highs of between 20 and 22 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour as Floyd Shivambu prepares to take up a seat in the MK party benches in Parliament. Signs that the move was in the works for some time now are becoming clearer.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app. Walk for something greater in the 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane. Get your tickets now on primemediaplus.com.
702
Live
on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856
92.7
and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
It's 7 minutes past 9. Welcome to the Clement Manyathela Show. Good morning to you. My name is Tshidi Madia, in for Clement this week. Happy Wednesday. A shout out to all of you. I hope it's been a wonderful start to the day. If you're listening to us from out of the country, a special hello to you. We made a great bunch of South Africans in Washington when I was there who tune into the shows, who follow our conversations and developments here at home. So a happy day and a wonderful day to you and yours. Yes, guys, I am thinking about Floyd. It's not funny. I am thinking about Floyd a heck of a lot. Like, what does his redeployment mean? I'll tell you all of that in a bit. I do want to know what you make of the news coming out of the Umkhonto weSizwe party. What's your latest take on that decision to move Floyd Shivambu from Secretary General, the COO of the MKP, to being in Parliament, not the leader in Parliament, not the chief whip, but a backbencher? Aye, guys. 011-883-0702-072-7021-702 if you want to share your thoughts on this or any other issue. We start the show, of course, with the open line. That's between 9 and 10. At 10 o'clock, we'll look at the Gauteng Department of Education and a decision it's taken to stop paying the utility bills of non-fee paying schools. There is a ask for the department to rethink its approach to this issue. We'll bring in Lukwana Mguni a little bit later on to speak about Floyd Shivambu. We'll also speak to the ANC. I don't know if you're paying attention, but a lot of voices in the ANC are quite sympathetic to what Floyd Shivambu is going through at the moment. I'll expand on that in a little bit. And then, of course, at 11 o'clock, as per usual, it's the listener's choice. We're looking at the fuel levy. It increases today. And, of course, at 11:30, as per usual, it's a sharing space. I'll speak to that story a little bit later on. And, of course, our lines are open throughout the show. 072-7021-702. That's for WhatsApps and voice notes. 011-883-0702 to chat to us.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
So news coming out of the MKP yesterday, the party announcing that its Secretary General, Floyd Shivambu, will be redeployed to Parliament. This largely, only really, blamed on that trip he made, that Easter trip to Malawi, where he visited fugitive Shepherd Bushiri. A trip, mind you, if you listen to a lot of the engagements he had leading up to this period, he's consistently defended. I think at some point you were speaking to Ziyanda Ngabo newsroom and he said that this is a trip that was on the program of the MKP, suggesting that it was sanctioned. So yesterday, we then hear that he violated the rules of the MKP's constitution, a constitution that he put together. I've had the song, guys, I'm going to play you guys a song for like 2 seconds, that kept playing in my head over and over again when I watched what happened, when I kept thinking about Floyd. This is the only thing that came to mind for me. Take a listen. Yes, you don't know what you got till it's gone. Do you think that's what Floyd has been going through? Do you think he sat there and he said, I made a blunder in August, that I shouldn't have left the Red Berets? That's one of the things that I thought about. But I'll be honest, I'm not sure if that is where he is. But it is a thought, like you were a deputy president of an organization, you go become a secretary general, and months down the line, you are removed. Some are saying that this should be a course, a political course in class of miscalculation. Do you agree? should a course about how you must strategically think of what you're doing be born out of the saga? So here are a few things that came to mind, really, if I'm being honest. One, we did know it was coming. I don't think many people who follow the MKP or Floyd Shivambu's career since moving to the MKP are surprised at all. The warning signs were there. The clip of Gauteng Mantashe asking EFF members in parliament, like, abalandu Floyd yini? Eh? So those things, the suggestions, the murmurs were always there. I actually spoke to Advocate Dalimpofu last week on the 29th of May for Politricking, the episode of Politricking, which airs today, ironically. And I said to him, Floyd's removal is a thing that's in the air. I asked him what would be his reaction if Floyd was to be removed. Of course, this was also on the back of Mzwanele Manyi's removal. Take a listen, quick listen to what Dalimpofu had to say.
Look, I think I give you the same answer as I gave around the Mzwanele Manye issue. None of us own these positions because of what I've just explained now. So there is an understanding, as it were, that, I always say, look, when you get appointed to this, you don't ask questions why. So when you get shifted, you ask 100 questions, yeah. But on a more serious note, as I said, it's the instability in a way doesn't faze me, in particular, personally, because of maybe where we've been with the EFF. So I think people who haven't had what one might call the EFF experience, get all hyped up about these things. But for me, I had to, you might not remember this now anymore, but you were there. I had to chair a disciplinary committee and literally expel the number 2, probably the number 3, number 4, whatever, of the EFF in the first year of its existence.
Yep. So that was Dalimpofu speaking a little bit about the expectations. This was before yesterday, that conversation that we had. It was in the lead up to this decision, and he said that, they wouldn't be surprised, that no one owns those positions in the MKP. He's not surprised. I also think, here's another point, the party is not being honest around the reasons why Shivhambu is being removed. And I go back to that media tour where he told people that it was a trip that was on the program. It was sanctioned. This is where I almost wish the journalists yesterday would have actually put that to the party. There was a great opportunity to ask, what did the party agree to, and and this is in line with the rules that were transgressed by Floyd Shivambu, allegedly. Another point to make, it is important to recognize that there's been very clear battle lines between Floyd Shivambu and Duduzile Zuma all along. Remember that outburst she had on social media that she's meant to be going to a disciplinary hearing for, that there's still no outcome. The MKP is actually quite swift when it comes to DCs, but this matter has just been hanging in the air. Some yesterday saying, well, clearly it's a clean sweep. Clearly, Duduzile Zuma has won. But Floyd Shivambu also gets accused of being a non-performer, that the strategy to bring him in from the EFF also meant that he'd come in with people from the EFF, and that when it comes down to it, they don't have large numbers of people who've left the EFF. So that strategy failed. But there's also been this theory around a coup, an attempted coup, that Floyd Shivambu and those he brought into the party with him were looking to take over the MKP. If you listen to my podcast, at the end I asked Dalimpofu what happens next. And I asked him, do you go to court, the constitutional court? Will you be a judge? Or will you be the deputy president of the MKP? And he laughed, because in that moment he recognized that I know something that I shouldn't maybe know. Like, what somebody knows based on the questions they ask you. So the idea that they had seen positions for themselves to rise and take over the party is one that people in the MKP believed. So that paranoia existed. The question again is, what is Floyd going to do in Parliament? It's going to be a backbencher. You've got John Hlophe there, who I think has gotten very close to former President Jacob Zuma. He's the leader. You've got Colleen Makubele, from my understanding, who's very close to Hlophe. So that's a Zuma core at the moment. I don't see it being shaken for Floyd Shivambu. Can you imagine how the EFF behaves and how he has to now contend with the EFF in Parliament? So I don't know how long he'll last, but that's what I see. He's going to be a backbencher. And I think, again, the Reds are salivating in this moment. So there's many, many aspects of this. I think in terms of whether or not he regrets the decision to leave the EFF, I'm divided on that. And I'm divided purely because I think he left because of how he was treated. And I don't think even this, the way he's been treated in the MKP, changes that in any way, if that makes sense. Kenny Kunene, who was once close to Shivhambu, also said last week that there was an issue of how Floyd was treated in the EFF. So I question that regret. I did say I find it surprising that it is NC members, Andile Lungisa, Zamani Saul, who've expressed the most sympathy, who've been magnanimous in looking at what's happening and what Floyd needs to do. So that's all of that. I'll also speak about Patrick Sindane, who left the EFF to follow Floyd Shivambu to the MKP, who yesterday quit the MKP. But I don't want to take over all of this. I want to hear your thoughts about what the moment means. 011-883-0702, 072-702-1702. That's for WhatsApps and voice notes. Tulani in Centurion, hi. Good morning, Tulani.
Good morning. I was going to say, I think what Floyd is going to do is all going to be dependent on whether or not when he went to the MKP, he was promised a position. And I firmly believe that he was promised a position. I don't think you would leave a party where you are a deputy president and go to another party to be just a general member. So I do think that when he went there in the first place, he was promised a position. And he was given a position.
He was given.
First, yes, he was first given, I think, being a national organizer or something around those lines.
Yes, it was.
And yes, secondly, he then was promoted to the Secretary General. Now, he has been demoted. And I think the worst part of the whole incident yesterday that really left a bitter taste in my mouth is you get demoted and then you are called onto the stage to come and address the very people, your fellow members, and tell them how you feel about this thing. It's like being employed as a COO or whatever, and you get demoted to the whatever position that is lower, and you're asked, come address the members and tell them how you feel.
That's it, actually, Tulani. It really is.
It honestly was embarrassing.
It's demeaning.
Now, I think for me, the most likely move for Floyd is he probably will stay for a couple of weeks, months, maybe even. But I do think he's going to leave. And I think the best move for him would probably be to open his own political party. No. And I was saying to somebody yesterday, if Floyd was to team up with Ndlozi and open a political party, I promise you now, MKP and EFF are going to suffer.
I don't think so, Tulani. I can't hold on, Tulani. Before I let you go, I cannot see how Floyd starts a political party and that succeeds. Part of the criticism here, and I think that's the legitimate aspects of what's gone wrong in the MKP, is Floyd Asimutu Abatu. He's not a people's person, and he had been given a role that requires you to have patience to deal with people, to have the capacity to engage people. As a secretary, the CEO of any organization, your job are people. Structures building requires you to engage, to be patient, to not be elitist and not to be above the people. And that's criticism that has consistently been there. And I think that aspect is legitimate. So if Floyd Shivambu is going to start a political party, he'd have to change his personality. In the EFF, his cover was he didn't need to be that. In the EFF, he didn't have to worry about that because you also then are dealing with a malema that people gravitate towards. So you don't have to deal with that. But thank you for that. I can't see it. How Floyd Shivambu starts a political party and it's a success.
Yeah, maybe not. And I do take your point. It probably doesn't have the personality for it. But I do think that he's definitely going to live because this is definitely a promotion. And by the way, Tshidi, I wanted to say to you, you've done exceptionally well in that interview in the United States. I take my hat off to you. You answered that gentleman. I was really, really proud. You made us very proud, and thank you very
Tulani.
much. One thing I want to say, there's just one thing.
Faster, I want to give other people a chance.
At some point, I want you to talk about Ibrahim Traore.
We'll speak about Traore one of these days because I have a very different view about the constant comparison between Traore and our government. Traore didn't rise via democratic means, and he also doesn't have the economy that we have to protect. But I take that. I see the obsession that we have with Traore, and I understand it, but I don't know if I fully agree with it. But one of these days we will. Floyd Shivambu, 011-883-0702. I also want you to weigh in on a story that I saw yesterday, or this morning, that happened in Westbury, where the police go in and are doing routine checks, and then they arrested a drug dealer. And what ended up happening is the community turned on the police officers. And I was like, how's that happening? How are we who cry about crime, who cry for police presence in our communities, how do we pick the side of the suspected drug dealer over law enforcement? And part of that is that they were not well resourced. But I'm not even too bothered with, or didn't have rubber bullets, because I don't think that they knew that they were going into what met them from the community. I'm worried about the community that wants to attack the police that are there, that wants to get rid of suspected drug dealers in our communities. What are we communicating when we cry about crime at the levels that we do, and then when police do their work, because we say they don't, then you attack the police? Like, what is that, guys? Help me understand that. 011 883 0702 072 702 1702. Those are the lines to reach us. That were in Vanderbijl Park. Hi. Debuho?
Hi, Tshidi, how are you?
Kisha, you want to speak about Floyd?
Yes, yes. You know, the song that you played, you can say, you don't know what you've got till it's gone. Really, Floyd really shot himself on the foot. He needed not to leave EFF, whatever the case may be. And I'm telling you right now, Floyd's political career, it looks like it's doomed for me. It's doomed. It's either he's going to go back to the ANC, as they are sympathizing with him right now, or he's actually doomed.
All right. Thank you so much for that. That's the word out in Vanderbijl Park, also weighing in on Floyd Shivambu. A lot of people saying that they don't think he'll last in Parliament. Only time will tell. Some are already saying that Clement Manyathela might not last. So only time will tell. Here are some of your voice notes.
Morning, Tshidi. The MK party is a family business. Jacob Zuma's daughter wasn't happy with Mr. Floyd Shivambu being Secretary General, and she made it clear. Why do you think Mdlalozi never joined the MK party? Because he knew they were used to divide and cripple the EFF by the Zuma MK party, and him and Dalim Pofo felt head, line and sinker. Now he's a backbencher. It's actually karma. What he did to, and I'm not an EFF supporter, and I'm not an EFF member, but what he did to Julius by stabbing Julius in the back, it is just karma. It is just karma, City. Tawhid in Randburg.
City, good morning. I trust well. I think Shivhambu made a strategic mistake for picking up a fight with the boss's daughter. And as for Julius Malema, I guess the guy must be having a good laugh that Shivhambu has been fired from being a General Secretary. So let's see how it goes. It's very interesting to watch all this theater right in front of our eyes.
Look, Tshidi, I'm not a supporter of MK, but to me, what is bigger to them is MK is bigger than the country. MK is bigger than Parliament, because this guy disrespected South Africa as a whole, and now to me they are rewarding him by putting him into Parliament, because Parliament is bigger than MK. Now the very fugitive that he visited, now he's been rewarded by being put into Parliament, because the Parliament are the lawmakers of this country. These are the people that shouldn't be visiting the fugitives. But to MK is the opposite. They are rewarding Floyd by putting him back to Parliament. It's crazy.
Thank you so much. I don't know if they view Parliament as in the way that you view Parliament, in the way that we should view Parliament. I don't think so. I mean, you've seen what happens in Parliament, and there's even an argument to be made about whether or not they've sent their best to Parliament, because I don't think that's what they do. And again, the conversation I have with Dalimpofu on politicking speaks to that too. He then even says that the remedy would be the fact that they can now finally replenish their list. They are 8 MPs down. We've seen the wrangling, and you see the criticism that the MPs I don't want to call them dads, but they are often referred to as dads, at least by the EFF, that's trying to help them, saying that, they are silent at matters that in moments that matter in Parliament. So there's a need for them to behave like the official opposition. They've been struggling. So I don't think that they viewed Parliament all along as something like that. Maybe Floyd becomes that, but it'll be difficult when you don't have the responsibilities given to you. He's not going to be the leader of Parliament, and even if he thinks he could be, that's going to be another battlefront, because Klope, I don't think Klope, Colleen Makubele, and I think Duduzile and even Tamulondlela are Floyd's biggest supporters. So whatever happens in the caucus is in fact another battle that's awaiting Floyd Shivambu. So I don't think so. Here are more of your voice notes.
Hi, good morning, Tshidi. Pat here from Spayview. Floyd, he thought he would go for greener pastures. Unfortunately, the grass is not always greener on the other side. What I think Malema is saying now, I told you. Yeah, he shot himself in the foot. There you go now. What's next for him? It is to warm the benches in Parliament.
Dumela Tshidi and team, and let me just take this opportunity to give sincere thanks. I think you represented us better in the United States than some of those who were actually in the White House. On the Floyd Shivambu issue, I think if reports are anything to go by, this smells and looks like a setup. There's something fishy. Something does not add up. How are you suggesting that you took a trip that was authorized, and yet a month or two down the line, you're being removed from one of the most influential positions within the party? The question is, was this a collective leadership decision, or is this the decision of a clique or faction within the MKP? Kingsley from Germiston.
Good morning, Tshidi. You all praising Floyd Shivambu. As other people, he made a big mistake by leaving the EFF. He followed the likes of Dalimpofu, who's got a career as a lawyer. And he followed him. He went to MK. Now look what is been treated. And also must remember, Zuma is a big reshuffler. He's still going to reshuffle them like nobody's business. So Floyd, we said to you when you leave the EFF, good luck to you. Let's see what you're going to do next. People are saying you are a strategist, you are this and that, while they are saying Zuma is a chess player. So we'll see. But I don't wish you good luck. You left the EFF trying to destroy it. So SG gone out of the window, go to your bank bench. After that, they're going to toss you away because people, they don't like you there. You invaded their space. Sindile,
that's harsh. You don't wish him luck. They're going to throw him away. But you're right. They said he was a master tactician, a genius. You must show. These are the moments where you must show all of that. But I really did think that Zamani Sol's tweet about how leadership is tested, how you go through these things, and it's how you respond to these moments that qualifies you as as a leader. So that was a very interesting take on what's happening to Floyd Shivambu. It is 9:30. Mbali's got your headlines.
Thanks, Tshidi. Good morning. Police have been deployed to the Mthatha campus of the Walter Sisulu University this morning. This is where students have embarked on demonstrations over bail being granted to a residence manager accused of murder. Manelisi Mampane was arrested following the fatal shooting of student Sisonke Mbolekwa during a protest in April. The 54-year-old is facing charges of murder and 2 counts of attempted murder. Yesterday, he was released on 10,000 rand bail, leading to anger amongst the students. As Floyd Shivambu prepares to take up a seat in the Umkhonto weSizwe party benches in Parliament, signs that the move was in the works for some time are becoming clearer. Head of the party's disciplinary committee, Dali Mpofu, admitted recently that he wouldn't be shocked by Shivambu's removal from office. Mpofu was speaking on EWN's Politricking podcast with Tshidi Madia. And Eastern Cape High Court Secretary Andiswa Mengo claims that she has been receiving death threats following her sexual harassment complaint against the division's judge president Salbim Benenge. The top judge is accused of making unwanted sexual advances towards Mengo between 2021 and 2022. Those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 10 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
This EWN Traffic is brought to you by cars.co.za. Let's find what moves you. Amo?
Well, Tshidi, we've got an accident reported in Alexandra along the N3 North. It happened right after Vincent Chabalala Road. It's causing heavy delays coming out of Morafontein Road. While travelling on the M1 South in the Sandton area, delays between Greyston Drive and Corlett Drive off-ramp. This is due to an earlier accident. While in Sunninghill, some delays reported along the N1 North towards the Baklu interchange. If you're travelling in Kempton Park, we've got roadworks taking place along the R21 North, causing delays between Pomona Road and the Olifantsfontein Road exit in the Tembisa area, so please be on the lookout there and drive with care. We'll have more updates for you. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
8 out of 10 radio listeners suffer from CAR, or car advertising on repeat. Symptoms include fatigue, anxiety, and confusion. With so many car ads coming at you on your daily commute, buying or selling a car can feel overwhelming. But there is a cure.
Cars.co.za. Whatever car you want to buy or sell, cut through the and just go to cars.co.za and let's find what moves you. Cars.co.za.
702 afternoons
with Relebogile Maboja, 1 to 3 p.m.
Why the name Squirrel Away? Why do I feel like you involved your child in the name?
No, actually not. So there is this term that's called squirreling away. So it's like when somebody say you are squirreling away, the background of it is that squirrels in summer, when there's an abundance of food, what they do, they take their nuts and their acorns and they actually hide them for winter. And then when it's winter, they're saying squirrels squirreling away. You are hiding something for consumption later on. Essentially, that's where the name comes from. It's literally you are squirreling away those gifts so that when your child turns 25, here's money, you can go start your business.
Founder and CEO at Squirrel Away, Sibongile Mabuka.
702 afternoons
with Relebogile Maboja.
Let's walk the talk.
If your skin is feeling a little flat this winter, bring it back to life with Malachi Organics from the SPF 40 moisturizing sunscreen that protects even on cloudy days, to the collagen booster serum that firms and smoothens. It's skincare that really works. The 3-in-1 total maintenance scrub mask cleanses, exfoliates and hydrates, while the youth plumping organic honey mask gives your skin a rich, radiant glow. Shop online at malachiorganics.com or find them on Macro online. Follow at Malachi_organics on Instagram for more.
Timber, have you filed your business tax return?
Joe. With My Way Business Insurance, I get My Business Assist, which gives me loads of benefits. They assist in filing my taxes, so no long queues. Plus, I get tender notifications, marketing services, and more to help me elevate my hustle.
They do what?
Yeah, bo. Thanks to My Way, now I have time to focus on the real deal, which is growing my business.
Move to My Way Business Insurance today and get covered to do business your way. Visit myway.co.za for a quote. My Business Assist is a value-added product. My Way is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's apply.
To walk the talk is to turn words into meaningful actions. And it's what we at 702 are committed to doing every day. We're also committed to following the rules set out by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission's Code of Conduct, to give you balanced programming, fair comment, and accurate news. But if we stumble along the way and you feel we're not living up to the code, let us know on comment@702.co.za. And if after that you're still not happy, you can direct your complaint in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission, PO Box 412365, Craig Hall 2024. For more, visit bccsa.co.za.
Every small business owner knows that you gotta dream big to achieve even bigger. And Nedbank Business Ignite on 702 understands that it takes guts and determination to show up for your customers and expand your business and your bottom line. That's why we're looking for all the SMEs of Gauteng that dare to reinvent, expand, and shake things up. You could win 200,000 Rand in cash and a 200,000 Rand advertising package to help you chase your small business dreams. So if you're a small business that dares to level up, enter on igniteyourbusiness.com.co.za for Nedbank Business Ignite on 702. T's and C's apply. Nedbank, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
702
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
It's 9:37. You're listening to the open line on the Clement Manyathela Show. Tshidi Madia standing in for Clem today. We're discussing a variety of issues. Earlier I spoke about an incident in Westbury where the police had taken into custody a suspect, right, a suspected drug dealer, and the community turned on the police. The police weren't well resourced from my understanding. But the question I keep asking is, what sort of communities are we? When an incident like that, that's who we turn against. We will also speak about Floyd. But for now, though, I want you to listen to some of the thoughts that have come through about that incident in Westbury.
Morning, Tshidi. I was so disgusted by that video. I saw it on Facebook, police running away. And obviously they ran away because they didn't have rubber bullets. And had they shot one of the people there, it was going to be chaos. So I think they did well for retreating. But my thing is, the colored community, they always complain that they are sidelines, there's no policing, there's no service delivery, wara. When the police are there to offer them services, they are the ones who are chasing them away. Their kids are dying because of stray bullets, gangsters shooting each other. And they blame police for not monitoring them. So now the police are there to monitor and work hand in hand with them. They are the one chasing them away. They're shooting videos laughing there as if police are laughing stock. Had they shot one of those people who were busy throwing stones, it was going to be a different story today. The poor policemen were going to be investigated by the IPID. So they must just leave them. They must just leave them because they want to be left alone.
Hi, Tshidi. I hear you saying, you're against the community that were fighting the police when they were trying to arrest a suspected drug dealer. But I still think that on the police side, they know the community, they know the area, they know El Dorado, they know the community, how it is. They should have come prepared. Intelligence, the people, some of them are already addicted. So they would be on the drug dealer side. So the police, I'm saying on their side, they were ill prepared. They should have come prepared for all of anything that would surprise them.
Very interesting views, very valid views across the board. Thank you for those. 011-883-0702, 072-702-1702. I want to bring in now the conversation of Floyd Shivambu all over again. So part of what was happening yesterday, whether you believe the Bushiri argument or you didn't, whether you think he'll be effective in parliament or you won't, we all attempting to dissect what it means. But I then caught Patrick Sindane's post. Patrick Sindane used to be, I think, relatively prominent in the EFF as well. He quit the EFF following Floyd's departure as well. And what was interesting is Patrick then didn't immediately join Umkhonto weSizwe party, but he eventually did. But yesterday, in everything that was happening with Floyd, he then posted on social media that he's humbly resigning from the MKP with immediate effect, posting, I think, his payments to the party in the past. The membership cost, it's 20 Rand for every 24 months. I think, 20 Rand for every 24 months. I don't remember the structure for membership, but he then quits. But he then qualifies that by saying, there's nothing strategic about this decision. Those who have been in politics long enough should know it's a demotion with respect. Those who saw it coming were correct. We must not be ashamed to say that the Bushiri story is not the real story. Dudu Zile has won. Say it loud. Patrick joins me now on the line. Patrick, good morning. Welcome to Radio 702. It's a clean sweep in your eyes for Dudu Zile Zuma. There have been murmurs that Dudu Zile and Floyd Shivambu have been at odds. You confirm it in essence in this tweet, saying that it's not the Bushiri story. Something else has been unfolding in the MKP.
Well, morning to you, Tshidi, and to your listeners. Look, we must call it what it is really. I'm not buying the story of Bushiri. I believe that this Bushiri story is just a by the way. It looks like somehow the leadership was waiting for something to happen so that they can take a decision that it was already in the pipeline. It's not a matter of discipline. Discipline must never choose sides. Discipline must never be selective. It must be applied consistently. If indeed the decision to remove Floyd was related to discipline issues in relation to his visits to Bushiri, then why have we not disciplined Duduzile Zuma for the things that he has caused in this organization called the MK, for bringing the organization into disrepute, for inserting the SG of an organization, for all those wrong things? Why have we not seen Mary Paddy disciplined properly? Not these games that are being played here and silent negotiations in the corners and then say find an amicable way of working together. Discipline must be applied consistently, and therefore I feel that there is no other reason except to say this thing of Bushiri was just a way of really now finding an opportunity to cut his head off.
When you left the EFF and you joined the MKP, what were your expectations and what did you find? Because what I often heard is that it was hostile terrain. That very often Floyd Shivambu and those who followed him from the EFF were told, go back to where you came from. That it was difficult for him to navigate the ground. It was difficult for him to engage with party members. What was the actual picture?
Well, I must openly tell you, Tshidi, and the rest of the listeners, it doesn't matter what happens. If you come from the EFF, you are correct by saying I also went to the PA. But I can still tell you, till yesterday, Akitsadao resigned, we were still associated and identified as EFF members. And life is extremely difficult for you in the MK if you come from the EFF. I can tell you from my experiences that, from the grassroots at the branch level, regions, gatekeeping, and the horrible treatment for the EFF that you are coming from the EFF. You will be mentioned to say these ones, they are bringing their EFF mentality. They are here to hijack an organization. They want to take over the MK. And this is not the EFF, this is MK. I mean, how do you grow an organization without accepting people? Because the strength of every organization, it comes with the masses, comes with membership, also comes with experience, and especially for people who join not looking for anything but just to be members, because they know they can work the ground, they can work their way up. If there is an opportunity for them to lead, they will lead. They are not dependent on anything except to be members of an organization and serve the people. But I can tell you now, those who know the reality, who are not trying to sound politically smart, will tell you that even when we left PA and joined MK, we were still associated with the EFF, called EFF people, Floyd Shivambu's people from the EFF. They are here to take over an organization. When we joined MK, some of us, we joined MK because when Floyd joined, it somehow presented a picture that it is now serious about building an organization, bringing some sense of stability and some sense of leadership, both politically and administratively. So we saw that it looks like now it's taking the shape of an organization that we might want to be associated with, because coming from the EFF and joining the MK, it's not far apart in terms of political ideology and orientation. It makes perfect sense for you to be a member or a former member of the EFF and now be associated with the MK, because they can find we can find each other along the way and push common programs, unite our people and so on. So it made sense. So if you remove Floyd and say it's a strategic decision, you want to now deploy him to Parliament and call it there, or it's a strategic move. It is not a strategic move. Floyd was a deputy president of the EFF. He came to MK, he was made the national organizer. He was then moved to a more senior position, which is the SG. From there, he was supposed to go to deputy president or the president of organization. But you remove him directly from the political leadership. You send him to Parliament. So you are compromising the organization for the sake of the Parliament. It means MK, it sees Parliament more important than an organization. Parliament, of course, is a tool that an organization must use to shape and strengthen the party, but it must never be the alpha and the omega. You need a strong organization, and therefore Floyd represented that. So that is my view, and I feel strong about it.
Before I let you go, very, very quickly, Patrick, part of the issue that I've been hearing is that Floyd was eyeing the leadership, the presidency of the MKP, and that was the problem. People would say to me that between Floyd Shivambu, Dalimpofu, and Zanele Manyi, those are people who see themselves as future leaders, suggesting that Dalimpofu could be the future deputy president and that Floyd could replace Zuma. That's a coup in the making, that what they needed to halt was an attempt to take over the party. Your reaction very briefly to that?
Well, I don't see anything wrong with that, because the issues of the MK, the issues of who must be the next president in the MK must be discussed now. Unfortunately, between me and you and all the listeners, we know the age of Ndade Zuma, age is not on his side. So the issues of succession must be discussed now. But MK can't behave like it's a 6-month party anymore and then keep telling us about teething problems. It has taken responsibility. It's the third biggest political party in South Africa. It must present itself like that. It doesn't have an opportunity to be behaving like some small organization that doesn't know where it is going or where it's coming from. They said they want to be in charge and be in power, and therefore they must provide leadership.
All right, thank you so much, Patrick. Patrick Sindane quit his membership of the MKP. He had followed Shivhambu. Shivhambu left the EFF. I think he did a pit stop at the PA, followed Shivhambu going to the MKP. And you can hear it's about succession. That's the battle, all right? Many have been saying, hey, this party will belong to Tutu Zuma. Well, maybe that's what the signals, right? Patrick saying that they must discuss leadership. That Zuma is, of course, of an advanced age, and that becomes a factor. But then I'm inclined to believe that's what it is. I want to continue with your calls. Moses and Santon, hi.
Hello?
Yes, Moses, go ahead.
Yes, no, I hear what this guy is saying, this previous speaker here. What is problematic here is that people are jostling for position. It's the same where you are working, okay? People will say that these are EFF people because everybody wants a position there. So if you are a weakling and you're not a leader and you're not strong enough, you will chicken out. Now, I see Floyd's move to Parliament as a very beautiful one for him, actually. Floyd is a leader, okay? You will see what will happen in Parliament. He will lead there. He will not be a backbencher.
That'll be so interesting, Moses.
Leaders are born, yeah.
That's true.
Born, and he will, yeah?
I'm saying it'll be interesting to see.
You will see.
Okay, thank you. That's Moses out in Santon saying that he thinks Floyd Shivambu will get to Parliament and make a showing of it. And you realize that he's worth something. Because also, there's an opportunity for him to showcase whether he is the master tactician. But he must get through Hlope, Colleen Makubele, as well as Tutu Zealand, Tlamulo, many other names there. Michael in Johannesburg, hi.
Good morning, Tshidi and 702 listeners. Here's the point that I want to make. Jay-Z did not open MKP to lead the country. He opened this party to destabilize the electoral system. We are dealing with a guy who has been a leader of intelligence of Umkhonto weSizwe. The gentleman is bitter about what happened to him. You know the saying of keep your friends closer and your enemies even closer. Floyd has been a victim of that. He was on the opposition chanting, Jacob Zuma must pay back the money. Jacob Zuma hasn't forgotten all those things. All the people that actually were his considered to be enemies, he's bringing them closer so when he gets a chance, chops all of them their heads. Floyd did not do his homework. He shot himself in the foot. Thank you, Tshidi.
Thank you. That's Michael out in Johannesburg. Tabucho in Pretoria, you want to weigh in on the situation in Westbury that unfolded yesterday afternoon?
Hello, Tshidi, and good morning to your listeners as well. Listen, there's a lady who just called and said that the police were supposed to know better and arm themselves when they approach. I don't think it could have worked, and I don't think it's a good thing because, today's police posed the apartheid from the history of South Africa the way it was. The police were considered, as people's enemies, because their approach to the community, the black communities in particular, were that militant approach with the hippos and everything. And, so now when these police, the currently ones that went to Westbury, they were supposed to first approach the community with a friendly approach, because what we are preaching right now is that the police are supposed to be friendly to the community so that they can work hand in hand with the community and have the communities trust them and inform them of the crimes that are happening. So that's why they had that friendly face approach to Westbury. They were not supposed to come with hippos and guns and everything. In that manner, you distance the communities from the trust that you're supposed to have with them, So yeah, that's my take. That's what I wanted to just put forward.
Very important point. Thank you so much, Taboga, out in Pretoria. Like, nuance has to also be taken into consideration when you approach situations like that. 0727021702 for your voice notes and WhatsApps on the various topics that we've been discussing, or to raise your own, really.
Regarding this issue in Westbury, it's not the first time something like this is happening. There was an e-hailing driver who was robbed at gunpoint, but these guys didn't know he had an illegal firearm. He had to shoot because they were carrying an illegal firearm. That community did the same thing with the Uber drivers. So they like defending criminals. It's not their first time. We know that area is a lot of crime. Thank you.
I said this is Tutsumane. As with Floyd Shivambu's demotion, I don't think, maybe, as I look at it, maybe he's being prepared to take over at the JSE in the place of Dr. John Klope. That's what I'm thinking, Yeah, he's probably been prepared to go there. Thank you very much.
I think Floyd Shivambu's acting as the COO of the MKP is karma coming home to roost. I think there are a lot of old grannies and grandpas who were members of his VBS heist who are unsympathetic like many of us. And you can call it whatever you want. The man ran away from accountability, and now this is karma coming home to roost.
Thank you so much for the voice notes. I think there's an interesting one that speaks about the JSE. Maybe that's an interesting one to raise, that maybe you'll sit on the JSE and maybe then you'll see something. There are a lot of maybes. That's why you're saying maybe around what happened with Floyd Shivambu. I still say, though, that caucus will be hostile. I don't know if you listen properly to what Patrick Sindane said. Like, no matter where you go, you're consistently told, go back where you came from. You come from the EFF, they don't want you here. They believe imposing your culture on the organization. And that's also been part of the resistance towards Floyd in terms of even the constitution. There was lots of resistance to every measure. I know that the time he tried to take them for like a workshop, a training event, and he couldn't get anything done. Why? He was being told, go back where you came from. So I think a hostile caucus also awaits. Let's take a quick break.
Every time we're on the radio, we're not just talking.
We're turning words into actions.
Actions that change communities.
Actions that make a difference.
And every time you tune into 702, you're not just listening to the radio.
You're in conversation with us.
And your voice matters. You're on a journey with us, and every step we take counts.
It's these steps that not only help us grow as individuals,
but also bring us together as a society through the good times and the bad.
Every step gets us closer to the South Africa we want to be.
So, keep walking with 702.
And let's make this a journey to remember.
702.
Let's walk the talk. Brush, stroke, paint, color, protect, and admire. From roof paint to exterior textures and interior silk, Warrior Paints has it all. The product range and stylish colors are amazing. And what's more, Warrior Paints has crush prices for incredible savings. Enjoy that good old-fashioned personal service you deserve. For price, quality, variety, and service, Warrior Paints is streets ahead. Warrior Paints. Affordable, lasting luxury.
You know, ever since I adopted positive energy-saving behaviors, the National Grid is thanking me. You should also adopt this lifestyle and your pocket will thank you too. Simply switch off non-essential appliances and lights when they're not in use. Reduce your geyser temperature to 60 degrees Celsius. Replace inefficient lights with LED lights. These are some of the ways you can use electricity wisely to help sustain our energy grid and contribute to a greener planet. Just like every rand counts, every kilowatt counts. Let's use electricity wisely. Eskom.
It's that time of the year. Sore throats, congestion, wet and dry coughs, pain and fever. For trusted relief for you and your family, ask your pharmacist to recommend a winter survival pack from the Adcock Ingram OTC range. With products like Medikil A, Expigen, Corenza Parac, Adconapamol, Dialint Junior and more, we have you covered this winter. Remember, Adcock Ingram OTC, sponsors of Brave.
Infrastructure connects economies, finance powers the vision. This week on 702 RMB Africa Focus explores how financial solutions are enabling the infrastructure that drives real economic change. Join award-winning journalist Crystal Orderson as she sheds light on the financial innovation and major infrastructure projects that are reshaping the future of African cities, industries, and trade routes. The RMB Africa Focus on 702 Drive with John Pellman this Thursday. RMB is a proud sponsor of B20 and the leading African corporate and investment bank.
702.
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
It's 9:56, but before we go to the news, we are taking your reactions and your views on news coming out of the MKP around Floyd Shivambu being redeployed. There's also lots of talk about who replaces him, right, as the next Secretary General of the MKP. I think they're sixth. They've had a lot in their 18 months around. They haven't been around for long, but they've had a lot. I hear the name of Phumlani Mfeka, one of the founding members, a traditional leader who also served, I think, in the provincial legislature at some point, who had left, I think, in protest to those joining the MKP. So he's being touted as a potential leader. Do you remember Bongani Baloyi? Bongani Baloyi was the Midvaal mayor of the DA, Nogal. His name is also being thrown around here and there as a potential replacement. He's been working and organizing in the MKP. I don't think he and Floyd Shivambu got along either. So there's also that. What happens next is part and parcel of the conversation around the developments in the MKP. Here are more of your voice notes.
Good morning, Tshidi. Hamilton here in Springs. I think Floyd's political career is going to the end now. From being a general secretary, they use him to write all the policies that he didn't understand, that he broke it when he went to Malawi to visit Bushiri. And they use him to make sure that they build branches for MK. And now they send him to the benches right there in Parliament. He must ask him, Zwanele Manyi, what happened to him. Julius Malema's ancestors are working. Hamilton here in Springs.
Good day, Tshidi. Good day, Philanders. Abraham in Florida. Tshidi, I think there's always been a mission against the people that came from the EFF, right? So they are fighting against them because they know that the plan looks like it was to take over MKP. So they're going to surpass people that they found there. So there's always been a pushback. So it's been Zandile Manyi who's been stripped off his role. Also, Busiswe Mkhebane, the former public protector that has been not recognized as a convener. And also you've got SG Floyd, who's no longer SG. He's now somewhere there at the back of the benches. And then now you're dealing with advocate Talimpofu. So he's also going to have his fair share. Something is brewing and they better recognize it and do something about it. But yeah, as for Floyd, I feel like his political career is over.
Thank you so much. I definitely think the battle is succession. It's about who gets to take over, especially when you look at this Phumlani Mfeka's name, is that here's a founding member, right? It rejects everything that a Floyd Shivambu represents with his newness. But me, I worry about Floyd going into parliament. I feel sorry for him because the EFF is going to let him have it. You know it. It's 10 o'clock. Here's your Eyewitness News update.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Bali Dlamini. We begin with this developing story. Police have been deployed to the Mthatha campus of the Walter Sisulu University this morning. This is where students have embarked on demonstrations over bail being granted to a residence manager accused of murder. Manalisi Mampane was arrested following the fatal shooting of student Sisonke Mbolegwa during a protest in April. The 54-year-old is now facing charges of murder and 2 counts of attempted murder. Yesterday, he was released on 10,000 rand bail, leading to anger amongst the students. Police have now fired rubber bullets to disperse the group of students who are retaliating by throwing rocks at the police. We will continue to give you updates in our upcoming bulletins. To this now, as Floyd Shivambu prepares to take up a seat in the Umkhonto weSizwe Party benches in Parliament, signs that the move was in the works for some time are becoming clearer. Head of the party's disciplinary committee, Dali Mpofu, admitted recently that he wouldn't be shocked by Shivambu's removal from office. Mpofu was speaking on EWN's Politricking podcast with Tshidi Madia. Shivambu was appointed Secretary General of the MK Party amid much fanfare last year, but after just 6 months in the role, a trip to fugitive Shepherd Bushiri's church in Malawi has now cost him a spot in the top leadership structure. Mpofu says ad hoc changes in the organization form part of the risk that they took when they left the EFF for the MK Party.
None of us own these positions. I always say, look, when you get appointed to this, you don't ask questions why. So when you get shifted, you ask 100 questions. Yeah. On a more serious note, the instability in a way doesn't faze me.
For more on Mpofu's views, you can head on to ewn.co.za. The former PA of Ace Magashule, Morwadi Cholota, could still come after the state after the Bloemfontein High Court overturned her extradition from the United States. In a judgment handed down yesterday, the court ruled against the NPA's decision to haul Cholota back to South Africa to face corruption charges. This means Cholota will no longer appear as a co-accused with her former boss, Magashule, businessman Edwin Sodi, and more than a dozen others in the asbestos case. Speaking on the sidelines of proceedings, Cholota's lawyer Pete Dibane says they were sure of their case from the get-go.
We have never changed our position to say the manner in which the state conducted themselves, it was unlawful.
Dibane says the decision to possibly sue the state rests with Cholota.
We will need to consult and take instruction from our client. She's in South Africa. South Africa is a home. We're going to consult as far as what's the next step.
Eastern Cape High Court Secretary Andiswa Mengo claims she has received death threats following her sexual harassment complaint against the division's Judge President Selbie Mbenenge. The top judge is accused of making unwanted sexual advances towards Mengo between 2021 and 2022. A tribunal looking into Mbenenge's conduct has so far heard evidence from witnesses who have corroborated some of the testimony provided by Mengo. Hearings have been postponed to the end of June. Zolega Kotashe has more.
Eastern Cape Judge's Secretary Andiswa Mengo laid her official sexual harassment complaint against the division's top judge in 2023. Since then, Mengo has been working in the same division of the High Court, taking leave from work each time the Judicial Conduct Tribunal sits to investigate the allegations she's levelled against Judge President Selbie Mbenenge. Now it's alleged that she received a handwritten note at her desk which stated that a bullet was waiting for her. During her evidence-in-chief before the tribunal, Mengo had also testified that she had received threats shortly after laying her complaint against the senior judge. With the tribunal sitting again from the 30th of June, it's expected that the panel will be mindful of this. The matter has been escalated to the Office of the Chief Justice and the Judicial Service Commission. Zoleka Kodashe, Eyewitness News.
And in South Korea, newly elected President Lee Jae-myung has vowed to reach out to the nuclear-armed North and heal old wounds. He made the promise shortly after securing victory in snap elections triggered by his predecessor's martial law declaration. His main rival was the ruling party candidate and a former member of cabinet, Kim Moon-soo. Lee says he will hit the ground running with a focus on uniting a polarized country. He also faces challenges abroad, crucially negotiating a trade deal with US President Donald Trump. Gold is trading at $3,351.58 an ounce. The rand is at 17.87 to the dollar, 24.14 to the pound, 20.31 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $64.63 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we still have got delays on the R21 North in the Kempton Park area between the R25 and the R23. This is due to roadworks. Please be on the lookout there while traveling. In Alexandra, there's been an accident on the N3 North after Vincent Chabalala Road. It's causing delays.
A fine Wednesday in store for Gauteng today. Temperatures peaking at highs of between 20 and 22 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. Police have been deployed to the Mthatha campus of the Walter Sisulu University this morning. This is where students have embarked on protest action.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
Walk through history, walk with it. Sunday, 27 July, 7:02 Walk the Talk. Hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane. More on primemediaplus.com.
7:02
Live
on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
7 minutes past 10, you listen to the Clement Manyathela Show. Tshidi Madia standing in for Clement Manyathela. Remember, still to come, we're going to have between 11 and 12. We'll have the listener's choice as well as the sharing space as per usual on Wednesday. In the listener's choice at 11, we'll look at the issue of the fuel levy. What do you understand about it? It increases today. And at 10:30, we'll be looking, of course, at that story coming out of the Gauteng Education Department. They've dumped utility bills on no-fee schools. What does that mean? What is the impact? How are people feeling it on the ground? Schools feeling it, and how are they managing to get around and to get by without government support? That's what we're also going to be looking into a little bit. But now, though, I want to continue with the conversation around Floyd Shivambu. Of course, we spent a lot of the open line making sense of what it means for Floyd Shivambu to be redeployed. He's now gone from being the Secretary General of the MKP to being a Member of Parliament. Lots of questions about how and what he'll be when he gets to Parliament.
For more about 702,
go to primemediaplus.com.
All right, so with less than a year since taking up membership and rising on to become the MKP Secretary General, Floyd Shivambu has now been redeployed to Parliament. The party made the announcement yesterday afternoon, explaining that part of the reason that this decision was taken is that controversial trip he took during the Easter period to Malawi to visit the fugitive Shepherd Bushiri. Mind you, this is an argument that he had been saying, a trip rather, he's been defending, saying that it was on the party's part of the party's program, suggesting that it was sanctioned. But one would ask, if that was the case, then why is he being sent to Parliament? And if that is also the case, why is it that everyone is reading it as a demotion? To try and get a better understanding of this, I'm joined on the line by Lukhona Mnguni, political analyst. Lukhona, good morning. Welcome to Radio 702. They want to say it's strategic, the decision for Floyd Shivambu to go to Parliament. But if you look at the general consensus, the general take and understanding of it, people aren't seeing it as strategic. Generally, people are seeing it as a demotion. Your initial reading at the news of his redeployment?
Well, good morning, Tshidi, and good morning to your listeners as well. I suppose, this is another, occurrence of musical chairs within the MK party that has come to characterize the party, and I suppose part of it is just an extension of how we used to see musical chairs in cabinet reshuffles under the leadership of President Jacob Zuma then, and I think now this is nothing new. But Tshidi, you'll remember that besides the trip to Malawi, even within the rank and file of MKP, there have been sort of, some murmurs within the party of dissatisfaction with, the conduct and leadership of Floyd Shivambu as Secretary General. Even the clash that became a bit public with Duduzile Zuma Sambula, which of course she had to apologize for. The point really is that the trip may have proven to be an opportune moment to make the necessary changes with a justifiable act within the party. That's one. But I do think that whether the motive is really strategic or not, there will be an extension of the decision that becomes beneficial to MK Party. You'll remember, Tshidi, that a lot of people have been complaining in the general public, in fact, that MK Party has really been a weak official opposition. It has been overshadowed by a number of, developments, and one of those is that even during the budget processes that have taken place, there hasn't been visibility of MK Party in the public discourse. And you'll remember that Floyd Shivambu used to be the star debater for the EFF in Parliament, almost his input overshadowing that of Julius Malema during State of the Nation address and various important debates in the National Assembly. I do think that in that respect, if Floyd takes that kind of posture of reintroducing himself as the content-filled person for MK Party, it will strengthen the parliamentary bench. In fact, I had actually said this sometime earlier this year to say, I think Floyd is wasted outside of Parliament, where MKP is really struggling. Of course, this also coincides with the judgment around, the former judge, Dr. John Kloppe, in terms of his eligibility to serve in the JSC. And therefore, I think MK Party, of course, now might be rethinking its posture in Parliament, new Chief Whip in Colin Makubela and so on. So maybe this is really, whether they are thinking about it as strategic as that, how the general public responds is neither here nor there, to be quite frank, Tshidi. Whether people see it as a demotion or they don't see it as strategic, that's just feelings of ordinary people. But the question is whether or not, in terms of outcome, what we will gauge down the line is a much stronger caucus for MKP, and is a much, and of course MKP, as you know, they now have vacancies that they can now fill in this month of June that they couldn't fill for some time, and therefore it will be interesting to see who else joins Floyd Shivambu in terms of deployment to that caucus, in terms of strengthening up. I have no doubt that you can't have a caucus as big as that one. It's the official opposition against the GNU, but it's not punching in a weighty manner that society actually feels that they are doing the work in Parliament.
There's lots of question marks about who else will join, but what kind of reception do you think awaits him in that caucus? Because as you've rightly flagged, that there was this back and forth between him and Tutuzile Zuma, and it found its way in the public domain. She's part of that caucus. There's issues. I don't know if you remember, there was a clash supposedly behind the scenes between Clement Manyathela and Hlophe over a speech that apparently Floyd Shivambu insisted that Hlophe read. So they already have this bad blood of a sense, from my understanding, between the leader of Parliament, the deputy president of the MKP, and Floyd Shivambu. So what kind of reception do you think he'll receive from the party?
Well, look, I think, he was the Secretary General, and as the Secretary General, you generally maintain good rapport, particularly with your caucus in the National Assembly and, of course, various legislatures. So it's not like there's bad blood in the sense that they can't work together, but also I can't put it past MKP to say that down the line we might see Shivhambu becoming the caucus leader, and it may well be that the former judge feels the parliamentary work is really strenuous to people who are not naturally instinctive politicians. And it may well be that the judge is looking at some form of departure from Parliament. It's possible, and he contributes to the party, but it allows himself some space to do other things, business ventures and so on and so forth, because it's quite clear that he's going to be constrained by virtue of having been impeached. He's going to be constrained in terms of how great and the extent of the role he can play as caucus leader. So I don't put it past MK seeing Floyd as a future caucus leader there in Parliament with Colin as chief whip. That is, of course, really possible. So I'm saying, whilst, of course, some people might, view him in a particular way, there would have been those tensions. But by nature, politics are tension-filled. It's how you navigate the tension that really determines whether a party falls or stands.
Before I move on from Parliament, I've got to ask you about what it would be like for Floyd having to face off with the EFF in Parliament. You, I think, correctly said there, he used to be one of the stars of the EFF. I think the EFF has kind of struggled a little bit to figure itself out beyond what Mwiseni Ndlozi and Floyd Shivambu used to be in Parliament. You've seen the rise of the likes of Sinawa Tambo and Sihle Lonzi. But now, when you see them facing off, I mean, the EFF has done a remarkable job over the past few months of trying to focus on particular issues. Do you see them derailing, him getting a core of their attention to one up a Floyd Shivambu who will be in the same room as them? Do you see that being a distraction in any way?
Well, I mean, I got into trouble when I spoke to you about 11 months ago.
Yes.
Because I said that MK Party poses an existential threat for the EFF. And I think Floyd going back to Parliament will pose some limbo for the EFF because there are people who literally just wished and hoped to listen to Floyd Shivambu. He is like I said, he's a content-filled person. He's an intellectual in his own right, a scholar in his own right, and I think he will contribute to the debates of Parliament quite seriously. I think for the EFF, of course, the unspoken thing in Parliament is really the place of the Progressive Caucus and whether or not officially they need to dissolve the Progressive Caucus, particularly having seen what ATM did in terms of issuing a statement about next year and their conversations with MK Party. So the Progressive Caucus really seems to now be MK Party and others versus the EFF, and the EFF has to probably make some political decisions for its own survival and its own future, to insulate itself as a party from the dominance or imposition of MK Party. But I do think that in Parliament particularly, they will have to think carefully how they continue to determine and drive issues. EFF has a good history of issue driving, and Floyd will probably assist MK Party with that kind of contribution.
Going back now to the party itself, just before I spoke to you, I think the last hour, I spoke to Patrick Sindane. I know you would know him. He ultimately followed Floyd Shivambu. Yes, he did so via the PA from the EFF to the MKP. And he said what he found difficult, he resigned yesterday from MKP with immediate effect. And that he found it difficult navigating the MKP because everywhere you went, you'd be told you're from the EFF. Go back to the EFF. You're trying to impose the EFF. The feeling that one gets is that there's a constant resistance to even the idea of fusing new people. I mean, Sindane's argument is the MKP must take itself seriously enough to want to engage even those who have history, who come with baggage and history in the political landscape, that you can't isolate them and want to set them aside because of where they come from. You can't resist them to that extent. Yet, he says that was the experience. He believes that's what led to this movement around Floyd Shivambu.
Well, look, I mean, every organization suffers the proverbial founders syndrome. And there will always be people who feel that, the more there are newcomers, the higher the possibility of them being threatened. Because remember, politics is about upward mobility. Everybody wants at some point a future where they imagine themselves taking over the reins of leadership once the layer of founding leaders dissipates and all of that. So the point I'm making really is to say it may well be that there are people who find those who come from the EFF a serious threat because, remember, they come with a massive base of understanding organization, politics, and maybe they also come with constituencies in some instances. But of course, they also threaten them because some may feel they're jumping the line and all of that. But those are the tendencies of new parties until those parties have settled into some kind of political culture, organizational culture. And of course, you begin to democratize those parties and they get to go to conferences and, the structures are elected. They've got a mandate from people and so on. And I think that, if you're then in a party that has a lot of uncertainty about those kind of processes, it's not clear when they'll go to conference. It's not clear when they'll formalize structures to ensure that they are built to get a mandate from members and so on. And of course, MK Party, in my view, has built itself into a super electoral machine. So it's a power. It's a power pursuit machinery, and therefore its internal logic is about how do you make sure that we are nimble enough as an organization to amass as many votes in every election that we contest, rather than how do we organize ourselves properly as an organization. And I have no doubt that at some point it's going to create massive frustration, including even for those who are founders, for those who are joining from other parties, because some of those people come from that culture and tradition of constant internal democratic elections. Whatever its factionalism and its faults of vote buying and vote rigging and so on, the ANC sort of talks about. It talks about it in the context of continuous attempts to hold internal democracy and make internal democracy viable. And I think people who come from that tradition and culture will eventually get frustrated when they don't see any end in sight of, some conference of sorts and some development of internal democracy and so on.
All right. Lukona, there's some voice notes that I want you to be able to hear and to weigh in on. But before that, let's take a quick break and then we'll come back to those WhatsApps.
Dear Journal, trying to be an adult, day 3,268. I love payday because my salary would look huge to 15-year-old me, but that's in 2011 money, not 2024 money. 28-year-old me is not so easily impressed.
Recently removed from the family payroll? Get covered at pineapple.co.za. It's like 570 Rand a month, so it's 100% the insurance for you. Underwritten by Old Mutual Alternative Risk Transfer Insurer Limited, a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP. Premiums are risk profile dependent.
A bowl of cereal, a glass of orange juice, some flavored yogurt for breakfast. Ultra-processed products such as these may be high in sugar, salt, or saturated fat. Having too much of these products could lead to diabetes, hypertension, and heart disease. Our health is in danger. We have the right to know what's in our food. Demand front of package warning labels. Now, sign the petition on healer.org. HEALA.org.
Specsavers Audiology, South Africa's largest audiology group, brings you the all-new Clarity Pro rechargeable hearing aids. Experience cutting-edge features at a price you can afford. For a limited time only, buy one Clarity Pro rechargeable hearing aid and get 50% off the second. You heard right. Buy one and get 50% off the second. Visit specsavers.co.za to find your nearest store and ask for Clarity Pro today. Specsavers Audiology. Test your hearing and join the conversation. T's and C's apply.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
Right, we're in conversation with political analyst Lukona Mnguni, trying to make sense of the decision coming out of the MKP yesterday. Floyd Shivambu, no longer Secretary General. I think we're now waiting for the 6th Secretary General to be appointed. If not, I think the 6th. I think it was the 5th to be appointed. Lots of names already doing the rounds, with close proximity to former President Jacob Zuma being punted as those who will replace Floyd Shivambu. But we're trying to make sense of what does this mean for Shivhambu's future and the organization. Some of you have sent questions and WhatsApps to Lukona, so I'm going to play you a little bit of those. Lukona, please just take a listen and then you can comment on what the listeners are saying.
Hi, Tshidi. Something that I feel is not being adequately ventilated is the issue of what Floyd was doing in Malawi. Why was he there? He said he was sent there, or at least with the understanding or endorsement of his leadership. They seem to be prepared to punish him for having been there, but nobody has actually interrogated exactly what it is that he was there for, what message he took there, what message he brought back there, and what his exact mandate was, because he did say he was sent by his party, or at least with his party's knowledge. I don't know what Lukhona thinks. Tshidi from Pretoria.
Very good morning, CD and Lukhona. Lukhona, you overreading Floyd, man. I don't see Floyd surviving being removed from the post, being demoted. Really, he's going to be a struggle. The guy, you could see him yesterday when he was addressing the media. You could see how disappointed he was. If it was also part of him to go and strategically really try to destabilize or EFF or maybe a serious contribution, the guy was disappointed, Moshere Boy.
Thank you so much, Lukhona. You are over-reading Floyd. If you can maybe weigh in on Mushere's WhatsApp, as well as the question mark around the trip to Bushiri.
Well, Tshidi, I mean, I think it's interesting to continuously interrogate what the motive of that trip to Malawi would have been, particularly, of course, coming, I'm no longer sure now which one came first between his and Ndlozi's. Of course, Ndlozi's would have upset Bushiri, and of course, Floyd would have gone there. You know that Bushiri has, at least in the South African context, a long relationship with some of the EFF leadership.
Yes.
And EFF leaders. You would remember that Naledi Chirwa, the member of parliament of EFF, even got into trouble for thanking Papa for her making it to parliament. But I mean, I'm trying to say that there is a long-standing thing, and there are certain personal ties that you can never know how far deep they go and to what extent, people are still in contact for their own personal and private matters, and therefore sometimes they have to perform these public acts to prop up each other and so on. Of course, for the MK party leadership, the whole cloud around Bushiri is still, of course, around how he managed to escape the country, blah, 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 which could be another extension of politics that have to do with Ramaphosa and so on. I mean, I'm not sure that MK party is, I'm not sure that Ramaphosa is, I'm not sure that MK party is the ultimate chaser of fugitives against justice. To be quite honest, I think it's part of a performative political act that allows them to be in the news and continue to be in the news in that way. But I think the last part. I mean, yes, of course. One may well be overreading matters. And that's the beauty of public discourse, is that we put our opinions, and when we are not clear, we manage to say that. Will Floyd survive within MK party? I mean, where else does he go? And sometimes in politics, you tag it out, as the saying would go, until sometime. There will be a moment in the next 5 to 7 years. Remember also, security of tenure is important. The next big election is really 2029. I mean, yes. 2026 local elections will be big, but the next big election is 2029. So if everybody sort of massages each other and target out towards 2029, so much could have changed. And I think the nature of MK party is such that there's a high turnover of issues. And I think people underestimate the importance of parliament in between elections. The spotlight of the media in most instances is actually in parliament. And it's not always that party officials who are outside of parliament are able to attract the necessary media attention, the issue driving and so on. And I think our parliament in this 7th administration is extremely contested, and there's going to be a lot of opportune moments to drive issues. MK party has a lot of airtime that is currently going to waste, if we are quite honest.
I am out of time, but I can't let you go without asking you to weigh in on Zamani Soul and Andile Lungisa, some of the people in the ANC who've really been quite magnanimous in all of this. Yes, Fikile Mbalula ridiculed Floyd Shivambu yesterday, but you got Zamani Soul saying, you laugh at him today, but I see ruthless adversity that is in the process of molding a future leader here. That Floyd dealt yesterday with yesterday's issue with dignity, and he carried the burden of the pain of embarrassment and humiliation from the leadership. Just very quickly, what does that tell us?
Well, I mean, it tells you that some people in the ANC are quite sober to the fact that the ANC is a party in decline. The ANC is going to need many more friends in future. And the ANC probably would do well to not demonize its former children and leaders of the party, because down the line, there may be or will be the natural allies at some point, because the results of the GNU will be determined at the polls, and it may no longer be viable to construct a government in the current form in the future to come. And therefore, the likes of Floyd Shivambu in future may be good friends of the ANC.
And that is completely lost on the Secretary General of the ANC. Thank you so much. That's Lukhona Mnguni, a political analyst, giving us his views on developments coming out of the MKP yesterday. Mbali Dlamini has your headlines at 10:30.
Thanks, Tshidi. A very good morning. The asbestos corruption trial has been postponed to January next year. The Bloemfontein High Court made the decision today due to clashing schedules between the defence and the state. The trial was set to resume this morning, but with one less accused on the indictment. It comes after former Free State Premier Ace Magashule's ex-secretary, Moradi Cholota, was no longer facing the corruption charges in the matter after the court overturned her extradition from the United States. Police have been deployed to the Mthatha campus of the Walter Sisulu University today. This is where students have embarked on demonstrations over bail being granted to a residence manager accused of murder. Manalisi Mambane was arrested following the fatal shooting of student Sisonke Mbolegwa during a protest in April. The 54-year-old is now facing charges of murder and 2 counts of attempted murder. Yesterday, he was released on 10,000 rand bail, leading to anger amongst the students. And economist Wandile Sihlobo from the Agricultural Business Chamber believes better harvests in the coming months are likely to give the economy another lifeline. It follows the sector's positive performance in the first quarter. The economy grew by 1% in the first 3 months of the year, beating expectations of a flatline or a decline. Those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 11 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Travelling in Dale, we've got a car stuck on the road on the N3 North, right near the Geldenhuys interchange. Please be on the lookout there. We've got delays coming out of the Elands interchange while heading towards the Crown City area. Delays on the M2 West between the Crown interchange and Main Reef Road. Main Reef Road in itself, it's backed up towards the M2 exit, so please be patient along that area while travelling on the R21 North. Remember those roadworks taking place in the Kempton Park area just before the R25 turnoff, and they're still causing delays coming out of the R23. Please approach with care. We'll have more updates. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
It all starts with FNB Private. With secure, easy payments for a hassle-free overseas holiday. Tap, swipe, or go digital with your FNB Visa cards. Earn rewards when using your FNB credit card or global account debit and virtual card. You can even fund your global account on the FNB app while traveling. Make the most of every moment. Unlock invaluable with FNB Private. Help changes everything. FNB, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized FSP and credit provider. TC's earn rules and limits apply.
Time to get Avolicious, because they're just so nutritious. From delectable toast to fab salads, everybody loves Avos because they're super versatile. Plus, they're high in heart-healthy fats, vitamin K, and biotin. Free from cholesterol and sodium, and can form part of a successful energy-controlled diet for weight management. And remember, green skin avos remain green, while dark skin avos turn purple-black when ripe. For Avolicious recipes and more info about the South African Avocado Growers Association, visit avocado.co.za.
Are you looking for the best savings on spectacles? At Specsavers, enjoy 1,500 Rand off when you get tested at South Africa's trusted and most established optical group. Get 1,500 Rand off all frames in store, or use your 1,500 Rand off on our leading lens enhancements, such as drive light lenses that reduce artificial glare whilst driving. Book online or call your nearest store today. Affordable eye care, Specsavers. T's and C's apply.
702
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
10:34, the Clement Manyathela Show. You're listening though to Tshidi Madia, who's standing in for Clement. I'll be with you, of course, until 12 o'clock. So, I don't know if you've read the story about the Gauteng department dumping utility bills of no fee paying schools. So we're going to look into that. How are these schools meant to manage without the support from the department? So we'll speak to the department, we'll speak to the DA that's flagging it, and we'll also speak to the National Association of School Governing Bodies to find out how they navigate. So all of this will be happening between now and 11 o'clock. You can call in, you can put questions to our guests if you have confusion and get clarity on some of these issues.
702
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
Calls have been mounting for the Gauteng Department of Education to immediately suspend its decision instructing no-fee-paying schools to be responsible for the payment of their utility bills and historical debt. Non-fee-paying schools across the province are facing utility disconnections. This after the department stopped paying their water and electricity bills. School governing bodies have expressed alarm over the sudden financial strain, highlighting the impossibility of covering such debts through fundraising in communities that are already struggling with high unemployment rates and limited resources. I'm joined by three guests to discuss this particular story. I've got Sergio Isa dos Santos from the DA, that's the spokesperson for education. I'm joined in studio by Steve Mabona, who represents the Gauteng Education Department, and I'm also joined on the line by Matakanye, who's the Secretary General of the National Association of School Governing Bodies. Thank you so much. Welcome to Radio 702 to all of you. Sergio, I'll start with you very quickly because the DA has criticized this particular decision. You've called it financial dumping. What is your understanding of the motivation even behind this decision taken by the department?
Oh, firstly, good morning to you and to your listeners. To be honest with you, I don't understand the intention behind this. All that I can say is that I do believe this is financial dumping. This issue seems to be a much broader case. On Monday, I had a few schools from Soweto complaining about the same issue, so I'm waiting information from there. Last week, Friday, I also received information from a number of schools in Tshwane. So this issue seems to be a lot broader and not just in Eldorado Park. But basically, what I say when I say it's financial dumping, it is. When you tell in schools without following due process and handing over historical municipal debt, some schools, as I've mentioned, 4.7 million rand, 4 million rand, 600,000 rand. When you're handing over this municipal debt to schools, and expecting them to pay when they're already in impoverished area. Many of them are no-fee paying schools. Even the schools that are classified as quintile 4 or quintile 5 are technically no-fee paying schools because they have very low collection rates, as little as 20% fee collection rates. Now the schools are facing possibilities of services being disconnected. Some schools have already received pre-termination notices in Eldorado Park, purely because the Department of Education has failed to pay these municipal bills.
You don't have a full understanding of the motivation. As I said, Steve Mabona is in studio, so we'll try and understand why. Ideally, though, Sergio, what would you like to see the department doing with regards to these schools? Obviously paying the fees, I assume, but how do you see them going about it? I'd imagine the argument we're going to hear from Steve Mabona is financial constraints on their part as well.
Well, that's the thing. And listening to his interview yesterday, I'm surprised that he's actually on the same line with me today. But they keep on referring to Section 25 of the SASSA Act, and Section 25 is the removal of functions from the SGB. We understand the SASSA Act. We're talking about Section 20, Section 21 especially, and Section 21(1)(d), transferring of the functions of paying fees to schools. Now, the issue is, again, and I'm going to reiterate, the issue is that there was no consultation. According to the schools in Eldorado Park, there was no consultation with the schools. There was no agreement by the schools, by the SGBs. There was no capacity assessment to see if they would be able to pay these fees. And there's been no training, and that's what is required in the SASSA Act. And just the procedural fairness, there has to be some sort of engagement with the schools to ensure that the schools are able to pay for municipal bills. You cannot hand over 4.7 million rand historical debt to a school And when the allocations to the schools are considerably less than what they can afford on a monthly basis. So every single month, they're going to occur more and more debts because their monthly allocation is going to be considerably less. And over and above that, the department has paid 25% of their allocations to some schools. Some schools were saying that we're still waiting for our allocation payments.
Okay,
so,
all right. All right, Sergio. Thank you so much. That's Sergio Asada Santos from the DA, who's kind of giving us a narrow picture of what's going on. I've got Steve Mabona in studio with me. He's already wanting to jump in and to say his piece. Steve, I'm going to ask you to wait a little bit. I want to bring in Matakanye a little bit. Matakanye, thank you so much for joining us. So, Sergio De Santos spoke about schools in El Dorado Park, now mentioned schools in Soweto, saying that this is actually far more greater than what they understood initially. From the National Association of School Governing Bodies, how widespread is this issue? How broad is it where schools aren't being assisted with utilities by departments? Is it just a Gauteng issue or is it beyond this province?
Good morning, and good morning all to all your listeners and the fellow interviewees there. We quickly just want to call the Department of Education, particularly in Gauteng, to sort up this mess. They must just sort up this mess without really coming there and start spinning and start now talking this and all those things. Department must just sort. And I talked to the MEC that the officials are disorganizing the system. The MEC must deal strictly with these officials because the officials are really embarrassing the MEC in the sense that now things are not. I mean, look, and we have been complaining about this thing that officials are arrogating the role and responsibility of the school government to themselves. And look, we are in this mess because of them. One way or another, they must have had an intention of doing this because the truth of the matter, if you give a governing body a function, particularly Section 21, they apply, you give them. And from there, if then they don't function, then you must train them. And you can't just arrogantly take this function without training them, without giving them that function. And it is different with the Section 20. And we don't know why really and truly they take that service and they bring the service. And we don't know how much schools are owed. I mean, how much municipality are owed. Because schools complain that now the money that has been given back, it is less than the money that they're supposed to pay. You know, we don't know what is this mess. So
how bad is it, though? How bad is it? And tell me what SGBs are telling you about the different schools. My greatest concern in all of this is that no fee-paying schools are already in communities where there's little. Already those children are at a disadvantage. So when you hear this back and forth between the department and the SGBs, my heart sinks because the people who are punished are those children. While you go back and forth about sections. So help me understand, how bad is the situation? What are SGBs reporting to you? What are they dealing with? Are lights being turned off? Is water not running at schools? And how bad is it? How wide-reaching is it?
Let me tell you, Tshidi, in Iguruleni, I intervened in Iguruleni. I talked directly to the acting HOD, Mr. Chani, when the current HOD was on leave. I talked to him, he was acting then, and he said he's going to talk to the municipality. Then he talked to the municipality, they opened. No. But the impact is that, you see, particularly Gauteng is going to an era where it is called the paperless education or the paperless time, where there will be no papers in school. So if there are no papers in school, we are going to use when we teach, we use all gadgets. Then gadgets are controlled by power. And if there is no power, it means there is no school in our education, or there will be no curriculum delivery in the school because we depend entirely on energy. And secondly, if there is no water, how do you expect these children really, if nature calls, that has a very serious impact. So it means, therefore, if there is no water, then the children have to stay at home until there is water in schools. And if there is no electricity, children have to look. If then electricity will be brought after a month or 2 months, it means that these children will adjust as if it is the time of COVID. You remember the time of COVID, how we suffered during the COVID time, and they are just bringing this is tantamount to COVID,
So they're setting the children back. How do the SGBs try and raise money in situations where the SGBs themselves must try and raise funds? What do they often do to try and make up for the money required for those utilities?
Look, the poorest of the poor, the township, the rural, the deep rural, they don't have, the skill of raising funds. And among them, really, there are no professionals and all those things. The professionals, even the very same children that we are teaching, once they become professional, they leave the township, they leave the rural, the deep rural and all those. So there are no people who are skillful, except that now they use these very children to raise funds. We can have concerts in schools, we can have tournaments, children play among themselves, and all those. That is the one way of just raising funds in schools to augment to the services that are paid by the schools. Okay. And through, we are opposed to this question of selling liquor in schools.
That should not happen. That's unlawful. What?
That should. We don't even want to see that thing. We don't want to see that thing in schools because we don't want to produce drunkards. We don't want to produce people who destroy the future of this country. We don't.
Nobody wants that at all.
That those methods can do. Yes.
Thank you so much for your time. I want to bring in Steve Mabona, who's been switching on the microphone all the time when it's not his turn to speak. Steve Mabona is the department spokesperson, the Department of Education. He is here with me. The one thing that many will agree with, Steve, is we want this mess sorted. There are children at the heart of it, from our understanding, who are then punished. So when the SGB body says sort this mess out, when the DS says sort this mess out, those are sentiments many of us will agree with. What's actually happening?
No, thanks very much, Tshidi, and all our listeners. The Tematakanye is a contact with us from the HOD to the MEC. As you can hear,
he says, yeah.
But if there are issues, then you need to come closer and understand so that you can be briefed on what really transpired. This thing started last year when municipalities across the board, they were switching us off in all our schools. So we had to then negotiate with municipalities because they were saying, look here, your schools are owing us, and that's why we are switching them off. And we had to negotiate. Our CFO had to move around all these municipalities, interacting with the CFOs of the municipalities, coming up to an agreement of some sort. To a certain extent, they wanted something written to say, you need to commit. And in the commitment, you must tell us how much you're going to pay us. So there's no phone call from Tatematakanye to the CFO and to stay open and then they open. No, it's not the truth. We negotiated with all the municipalities and negotiated with Treasury. Said, Treasury, we are lagging behind. Can you give us additional funding so that we can then pay off our municipal accounts? National Treasury gave us additional funding. We then went back and said, how much do we owe municipalities? All the schools that are affected, let's then pay for them. Let's not transfer the money to schools so that they can pay the municipal accounts. We then agreed with municipalities, these are the figures, but we will be in a position at the beginning of the financial year, we'll pay you this amount to reduce the debt. And also in the other months, which we've already identified, to say we will also pay this amount to make sure that we complete the debt. We have started paying the debt. So this thing of saying we are dumping the debt into schools, it's not accurate. And we have responded to Santos because he asked us a question and MEC responded to say, this is the situation. But he decided to ignore what we sent him as a response, knowing, I'm not sure what he's trying to do, because this thing is not only in El Dorado. If he were to do a spade work, it's happening across the municipalities. And we have negotiated, we have started paying. We're going to pay off the debts, but now, during the transfer allocation of funds, because we need to transfer in all the schools, the quintile 4s, quintile 5s, and even the no-fee paying schools. We said then to them, moving forward, you need to pay your municipal accounts because we are giving you an allocation. In that allocation, we are including money that we must use to pay your municipal accounts. You know, some were saying about what about learner material? The money that we send to school, 50% is for learner material. They must make sure that they procure. I think we assist over 200 schools where we procure for them your learner material. So across the board, we transfer money, and per learner in the no-fee paying schools, we're giving them 1.6 per child. And in the fee-paying schools, we're giving them over 823 rents for them to cater for what is needed there. So the shifting of them having to pay, they don't need to pay the debt. They must pay current, what they owe current. We're not talking about the debt. With the debt, we have arranged with the municipalities, we are paying off the debt. But they need to now pay for what they owe currently, so that they
from
don't
the allocation
have from the allocation
them.
that we gave them.
So why does it then feel like, because that sounds quite simple to me, then it feels like there is a mishap in communication or a lag in payments, because then it actually impacts the children. Because if you're saying to me that you're taking care of their debts, right?
Yes.
They don't seem to know, number one. One would imagine that they should know that the department says it's paying off their debts, and when the debt's paid off, they should be not told. Secondly,
no, we
hold on, let me finish another question. Hold on. The issue of allocation, when you give them money for learner material and for the day-to-day use, I suppose, do you then say, in this allocation, this much must go to servicing utilities every month? Is there that conversation? Because then we must look back at the school. Something's gone wrong.
Yes. And we've communicated with most of them in 2023 already. Because for us to take the functions of a school, they must be performing bad in terms of the financial management. Those few that will be identified. That's why in El Dorado they are saying 6. Those 6 were identified as those that could not manage, their funds. Then in 2023, because we've been looking at them to say, we're going to take back or give you back the functions, because you will understand that after each and every SGB that is voted in, we do training. I mean, we have Matthew Koniwe that conducts training for all the SGBs that are new. And all these SGB, when did they start? Last year already, they started. So they are going through the training on how to manage finances. So there's no dumping of any debts that we need to clarify. And the allocation, we allocate as per the learners. Remember, statistics is quite key in education. That's why we'll normally do a head count to say how many children you have. Out of that, that's how we're going to be allocating money. So there's no way that we can allocate lesser than what is expected.
How many schools were affected broadly in the province?
No, across the board. In all across, I don't know
all the non-fee paying, or you don't have a figure? Okay.
All the schools. All the schools, they were affected. They didn't pay their municipal debts and we had to take over. But mostly those that did not pay, they're in the townships.
And then in terms of clearing that debt so that they're reconnected, that kids have electricity and water, how far along is the department?
Look, we negotiated with municipality. And you must say, we are hitting a brick wall in some of the municipalities. They were saying we're not taking it. But we had to knock in the doors and negotiate. We negotiated and we started paying. We paid the first tranche, and we will also then continue and make the other payments so that we don't have a debt. But we are not dumping that debt to schools. The schools must pay what they have currently consumed as per the municipal services.
And if we are stuck, if they can't service their debt at the moment,
the
intervention has to still come back to the department, doesn't it?
Schools, according to the legislation, schools can apply for additional funding if they see that there's a shortfall.
Okay.
The legislation is there. It's allowed for them to request for additional funding, and it's even allowed for them to appeal if there's a decision that we took and they feel that it doesn't go along with them. Then they can appeal that decision and probably it can be reversed. But this is not only an El Dorado area issue. It's the entire province, not even Tshwane only. So Santos didn't do his work actually to go and check in the other areas, focused on El Dorado. But we understand, next year is elections.
It's 10:55. A couple of, I don't not to respond to that part. It's 10:55. There are some WhatsApps that I think have come through as well. Abel, please can we play those WhatsApps and put those questions to Steve?
Hi, Tshidi. I'd like to remain anonymous. I am part of an SGB at one of the best schools in the Joburg South District. It is true the department has cut funds. It is true they are threatening. We have received a letter that they will cut off the electricity. And this is a quintile 5 school that I'm serving at. So the department is failing our kids. It's really failing us.
What were the letters about that she's referring to? That you sent letters to schools? She says she's a member of an SGB. You did send threats to schools.
We are not saying we are cutting. We said they must pay their municipal debts. They must pay their municipal accounts, not debts. The debts we have acknowledged that we are taking over, will pay that debt. But what we allocate to them currently, they need to make sure that they don't say, no, we are owing municipality, we are not paying. No, they must pay the current utilization of the municipal services. Meanwhile, on the other hand, we are dealing with their debts. And we have acknowledged that, yes, our schools are, owing, and we have packaged the communication between ourselves and all the municipalities, because we had to negotiate that please don't cut us because we'll be affected, dearly. Because most of our schools, they use smart boards, they use tablets. So without power, it will be really an inconvenience for the process of curriculum delivery.
All right, thank you so much. That's Steve Mabona. For me, it ultimately completely feels like it was miscommunication. I've got Sergio De Santos still on the line. Sergio, just very quickly want to bring you in. In essence, Steve Mabona is saying on your part, it's a lack of doing homework, that they had communicated, that they had gone to municipalities, and it doesn't sound like there's a service that they're trying to cut.
I was not, I apologize, I wasn't fully engaged in the conversation because, as I mentioned, I'm in another meeting. But the gist that I got, it is incorrect. The schools have complained that there was no engagement by the department in terms of training the SGBs, training the schools, doing a capacity assessment. None of that has taken place. All they were told, they were provided a letter saying from the 1st of April, you are now responsible for paying your school fees. And if you heard, you're listening to that gentleman from the SGB organization. Yes, he's basically saying the exact same thing. There has been no engagement by the Department of Education in ensuring that there's capacity building, that there has been assessments done to ensure that the school and the SGBs are able to afford and to be able to pay for municipal bills. Okay. What the spokesperson is saying is a complete fabrication. The schools are, if it's only 1 or 2 schools that are saying that,
all right.
You can say.
All right, so thank you. Steve, I want to give you very quickly the last word. Again, for me, all of this boils down to a lack of solid communication.
Yeah, basically. But we'll make inroads with our schools and make sure that all those that are given back this responsibility, they know what to do.
And understand what it actually means. That's part of what I feel is lost in translation.
Yeah, I think so. But we appreciate their input. We'll make inroads with our schools and make sure that they understand on what is expected of them. But we are not dumping anything to schools. These are our schools, will support them. We negotiated on their behalf, and all municipalities agreed, though it was a struggle, because they also have their own responsibilities in terms of finances. They've got shortfalls. So we had to make sure that we are in agreement. And we have committed, because we've started to pay the municipalities.
All right, thank you so much. That's Steve Mabona from the Gauteng Department of Education. Good luck with the comrades. Also, thank you to Sergio Isa dos Santos from the DA, as well as Matakanya, who's the Secretary General of the National Association of School Governing Bodies.
Kickstart your small business with a starter bundle from Nedbank. Enjoy free transactions for 6 months, including free cash deposits and withdrawals, and a free debit card with easy digital access and a dedicated banker to guide you along every step of the way. Open a Nedbank starter bundle with SA's best bank for SMEs. Apply on the Money app today. Nedbank. See money differently. Nedbank is a licensed FSP and credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Volksfest deals are back. Get a free upgrade to the Polo Vivo Life when you buy a new Polo Vivo and pay 0% deposit. Get more features at no extra cost. Buy it now and only pay 3 months later. Offer valid only through Volkswagen Financial Services. Looking for something sportier? The stylish T-Cross is yours from just 399,900 Rand. These Volksfest deals won't last. Visit your nearest dealer today or visit vw.co.za.
Hi, I'm Lewis Hamilton. Victory demands everything, but the journey is never solo. My team carves the way, data and innovation are my compass. This is how today's champions are made.
Drive your success and trade like a champion. CFI, a global leading broker now in South Africa. Access over 15,000 instruments, advanced trading tools, 24/7 support, and superior trading services. Visit cfi.trade today. CFI Financial is an authorized financial services provider.
CFI, empower yourself.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Bali Dlamini. The state in the asbestos trial has confirmed it plans to appeal the Bloemfontein High Court judgment, which overturned Murwadi Cholota's extradition from the United States. Cholota, who is the ex-PA of former Free State Premier Ace Magashule, was let off on a technicality when the court ruled her 2024 extradition was unlawful and unconstitutional. Before then, she was amongst more than a dozen accused facing corruption charges in the 255 million rand asbestos case. At the start of today's proceedings, State Prosecutor Advocate Johan de Nation asked for another postponement to deal with the possible appeal.
The prima facie view is that we shall appeal this judgment, either by joining the Schultz matter, which is already before the Constitutional Court on appeal by the state, or alternatively by approaching the SCA.
A frustrated Magashule stood up before the court and protested this request.
The state has always been saying they are ready. It looks like we don't have rights, because now and then, even if you meet next year, it's going to be another postponement.
We shift our focus to this now. 3 students have been arrested during protest action at the Walter Sisulu University's Mthatha campus. Students blocked the N2 highway near the campus this morning, burning tires and rubble. The students are angry after the man accused of killing student Sisonke Mbolegwa was granted bail. Mbolegwa was killed during a student protest over residence issues on campus back in April. Manelisi Mampane, a residence manager arrested for Mbolegwa's in connection with Mbolegwa's murder, was granted 10,000 rand bail yesterday. Ntlantla Mabaso reports.
Students at the Walter Sisulu University main campus in Umtata blocked the national route, protesting against the release of Manelisi Mampane, accused of killing student Sisonke Mbolegwa. Students want Mampane kept behind bars, citing safety concerns. The protest has disturbed academic programs at the institution. Police say the 3 students will be charged with public violence, damage to infrastructure, and damage to property. Ntlantla Mabaso, Eyewitness News, Umtata.
Deputy Transport Minister Mkhuleko Hlengwa says he won't tolerate the board and executives of the Road Accident Fund dodging Parliament. Hlengwa has told Parliament's Transport Committee yesterday that all is not well at the entity and he expects management to be accountable. Yesterday, the board said it had suspended CEO Collins Letswalo over his refusal to attend last week's meeting of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts. Lindsay Dentlinger reports.
The RAF board says it felt it was unfair to have to answer to findings unearthed by investigations of the Special Investigating Unit in Parliament when it had not been briefed by the SIU prior to the meeting. But Deputy Minister Mkhuleko Hlengwa, a former SCOPA chairperson, says he's ordered the board to come to Parliament when asked to do so.
When so much is wrong in the country, we cannot be seen to be avoiding accountability. I indicated to the board that go and ventilate those issues at the SCOPA meeting so that Parliament can have a holistic or global outlook of the set of circumstances around these investigations.
Hlengwa says he will meet with the board next week to deal with some of its issues.
All is not well in REF on a number of fronts.
Hlengwa says he's also instructed the board to drop its persistence on challenging the Auditor General on the accounting standard used at the fund, following 3 adverse judgments in the courts. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
And the search for a young girl who went missing 18 years ago is set to resume in Portugal. Madeline McCann was just 3 years old when she vanished while on holiday with her parents, sparking a Europe-wide investigation. Investigations done years after the little girl's disappearance led to a prime suspect, Christian Bruckner, who is currently serving a sentence in Germany for the rape of a 72-year-old American woman, in Portugal in 2005. The search, which is set to resume on Friday, is expected to span across 21 different plots of land in Portugal. Gold is trading at $3,351.58 an ounce. The rand is at 17.87 to the dollar, 24.14 to the pound, 20.31 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $64.63 a barrel.
And in the traffic in Rivonia, we've got an accident on Rivonia Road. It's reported right near the N1. Please be on the lookout and try to avoid. While in Paulshof, some delays along Witkappen Road just as you approach Rivonia Road. Please be patient on the roads.
A fine Wednesday in store for Gauteng today, temperatures peaking at highs of between 20 and 22 degrees. The top story in EWN, the state in the asbestos trial has confirmed it plans to appeal the Bloemfontein High Court judgment, which overturned Morwadi Cholota's extradition from the United States.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app. 702.
We're listening to you. 702.
Live
on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7
and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
8 minutes past 11. It's the third and final hour of the Clement Manyathela Show. Tshidi Madia standing in for Clement. I'll be with you until 12 o'clock. After that, you will have the midday report. Rulebukile Mabocha steps in for the lunchtime show after. You have John Perlman on the afternoon drive. And of course, that's followed by the Money Show with Stephen Grotes. But for now, though, we're going to speak about the fuel levy. It's listener's choice.
Join us.
Let's walk the talk.
This is 702.
Starting from today, the 4th of June, the fuel levy is set to increase by 16 cents a litre for petrol and 15 cents for diesel. This levy is a tax added to every litre of fuel you buy. It's often called a silent tax because it's included in the price at the pump. You won't see it listed like VAT. So over the past 10 years, the fuel levy has more than doubled from R1.77 per litre in 2012 to R3.93 cents in 2022. Today, it makes up for around 67% of what you pay at the pump. But what is a fuel levy used for, and is it necessary? That's the conversation we're having. That's what one of the listeners asked us to dissect. I'm joined now on the line by economist Davi Ruo to make better sense of what a fuel levy is. Davi, good morning. Welcome to Radio 702. Thank you for your time.
My pleasure. Good morning to you.
We hear about a fuel levy. We saw yesterday the EFF even challenging this matter in the courts.
Yeah.
They've called it a regressive tax as well. What is a fuel levy? What is it for? What does it exist? What does it serve?
Maybe a bit of a background on the various taxes and where the fuel levy fits in. A fuel levy is actually a levy. It's not really a tax, but it doesn't really matter because they're all taxes in the end. But there are different kinds of taxes. There are direct taxes, like for example, when you get a salary and they deduct pay as you earn from your salary, that's personal income tax. That is a direct tax. And then you get indirect taxes, and the fuel levy is a good example of an indirect tax because you can't really see it. It kinds of happen. And the same goes for VAT. It also kinds of happen. You can't really see it. People don't really see it. Although we do know that we're paying VAT, it's included in the price. And then you also get progressive taxes. Progressive taxes are typically taxes that go up as your income goes up. They call it progressive tax. It's a weird name why they call it that. And then you get regressive taxes, and the regressive taxes are typically taxes that lie quite heavily on the poor or lower income categories. And VAT is a very good example of that. And the reason why VAT is a regressive tax is because the poor spends most of their money. They don't save that much. And if you spend money, then you pay VAT. While if you save money, then you don't pay VAT on your savings, for example. So the poor, relatively speaking, carry a bigger burden when it comes to regressive taxes. But just keep in mind, when you talk about taxes, you should actually be talking about the whole budget, because if you look at the total tax burden in South Africa, that is hugely progressive, and very few individuals pay just about all the taxes or a lot of taxes. While if you look at the expenditure side of the budget, where the money goes to, then you will find that it mostly goes to poor people. So poor people mostly get the benefit, or most people get the benefit, while the rich people do not get much of a benefit out of the budget. The rich people, for example, they've got their own medical funds and pension funds and health insurance and stuff like that. So the whole budget, if you look at the whole budget, it is hugely redistributional. It's probably the most redistributional budget in the world. Okay, that is just by way of background. So where does the fuel levy fit in? The fuel levy is mostly a regressive kind of tax because South Africa is a large country. Everything is affected by Everything mostly is transported in South Africa, and that means that if you pay for something in the end, that thing has been transported to the shop and you indirectly pay for the fuel levy as well. So in that sense, it is a regressive tax, but there are some other benefits to a fuel levy. The fuel levy, for example, is a relatively easy tax to administer, so it's a relatively cheap tax to administer. It's charged very high up in the value chain. So they take the money at the beginning of the value chain, they take the tax off that, and then the tax is included all the way down to the final consumer. While in a case, for example, of value-added tax, that is a much more expensive tax to administer, because in every transaction in the value chain, VAT is charged, value-added tax is charged, and that, of course, makes the whole thing administratively more expensive. And that's for that reason I would say the fuel levy is it's a better tax, because it's cheaper to administer and it's very, very broad based. But I think it is important not to look at a single tax only. You have to look at the whole thing. Broadly. And I just want to emphasize the following again, is that we have an exceptionally progressive tax system if you look at all the taxes, and if you look at the expenditure side, that's where the money goes to, mostly not to rich people, and the redistributional impact of the fiscus is really quite large in South Africa.
Let's speak about impact. I felt like today was a double-edged sword. So you hear that the price of fuel is going down first Wednesday of the month, then you go yay, and then you hear that the levy is going to go up after 3 years. So it feels like a double-edged sword. Your sense of the impact something like this has on the average South African?
Yeah, the fuel levy is called a levy. It's not a tax, although it is a tax in the end. It's called a levy because it's a fixed amount of money that the Minister of Finance takes off. Whenever you put in petrol, there's a fixed amount of money per litre that goes to the Minister of Finance, and that is called the fuel levy. There are some other levies as well. There's also the so-called the road accident levy that is also levied on the fuel levy. So you pay for that. And like I've said, it starts in the whole value chain. It starts at the top of the whole value chain, and it's a fixed amount amount of money that goes to the Minister of Finance, or goes to the road accident funds, and of course it goes by way of an income to the Minister of Finance. And just by the way, the total revenue that the Minister of Finance gets from the fuel levy is close to about 100 billion rand, just about 90 billion rand or so, which is a significant tax. Maybe I could just mention this. I love taxes. The first one,
it's okay, I can hear that.
The academic side of taxes. The most important revenue source to the Minister of Finance is personal income tax, followed by value-added tax, followed by company taxes, and then followed by the fuel levy. So the fuel levy is a significant tax to the Minister of Finance. But of course, the fuel price itself changes every month, and it changes every month because of two other variables that keep on changing. The one is the international oil price, that goes up and down all the time, and then of course the exchange rate of the rand, that goes up and down all the time. And in order to adjust for the changes in the changes in the exchange rate, and of course the international oil price, every month there's an adjustment made to the price of petrol. The other variables, like for example the fuel levy itself, remains constant, but for the rest of the petrol price, that keeps on changing all the time because of these variables that keeps on changing. Now for this month, for example, the petrol price would have come down by approximately 20 cents a litre.
Yes.
And the reason for that is because the rand appreciated quite nicely, but the oil price also came down a little bit the last couple of months or so. So the combined effect of these, sometimes they can move in opposite directions. Sometimes the oil price will go up and the rand will go stronger. Then you will have, they will cancel or neutralize one another to an extent. But this month, the total fall in the petrol price would have been in the region of approximately 20 cents a litre. But at the same time, the Minister of Finance increased the fuel levy with about 16 cents a litre. So the net effect thereof is that the petrol price came down by about 5 cents a litre or so. So that's the reason why we see a reduction in the petrol price this month, although the fuel levy actually went up.
And then the significance to the broader economic picture. I mean, I was asking about the impact on average South Africans, and you speak about this minimal decrease in petrol pricing as well. Yes. But the overall impact on the broader economic picture.
Yeah, well, that is actually a very, very difficult question to answer. And the reason is because if you change something in the economy, it doesn't have a knock-on effect immediately. It takes time. Let me give you one example. If a very important price in the economy is interest rates, and when the Reserve Bank make adjustments to interest rates, that changes the price of money. And that can take as long as 2 years before the whole thing filters right through the economy, that change in interest rates. The same goes for petrol prices. When the petrol price changes, then that will have an impact, a knock-on effect on just about everything right through the economy, but it takes time. And in the meantime, the petrol price can go up and it can go down and it can go up and down. So you get these waves going through the economy, and you can't give you an exact answer to this is the impact that it is going to be, because it takes such a long time before everything is adjusted, and in the meantime everything changes again. So that is, the economy is like a living organism with all these price changes taking place all the time. But trying to answer your question, yes, when you talk about the petrol price coming down now, that will be good, for example, on inflation. It's not coming down by much, 5 cents or so, because sometimes we calculate inflation also from a month-to-month basis. So at least that component, the petrol component, will be positive for inflation. But trying to come back again to your question, the rand over time usually depreciates over time, so that's got a negative impact on the economy by way of rising prices, for example. Recently, we've seen a fall in the oil price, generally speaking, for all sort of international political reasons and so on, and the oil price came down quite nicely as well. So the effect of these two, the falling oil price the last couple of months, as well as the rand doing a little bit better now, if you combine all of that, then you will see that we have currently inflation, for example, below 3%, which is really an excellent level of inflation to have. And that's why the Reserve Bank says, and that's why they're pushing for the reduction in inflation targets, because inflation is already very low. And it's not going to be very expensive for the economy to change the inflation targets now. Because if inflation was running about, for example, at 10%, and they changed the inflation targets to 3%, then the Reserve Bank has to increase interest rates quite a lot. And if they do that, that's going to be very painful to the economy, and we're going to pay a very dear price to get inflation eventually down. But since inflation is low already, Now it will be relatively easy by simply changing the inflation targets, keeping interest rates perhaps a little bit higher than normal for a while longer, and then we have inflation down to 3%. So this is an excellent, wonderful opportunity for the Reserve Bank to cut interest rates. But yes, so the fall in petrol price is not going to be much. It would have been more if it has not been for the fuel price, but a little bit of fall at least will be more good news than that, certainly.
I'm glad you touched on inflation, because I was wondering whether or not this levy could eventually have an impact, an increase, and that could push up inflation in any way. Is it possible for it to affect that or even consumer prices in a way that's substantial in the long run?
Remember, when you talk about inflation, it is not a single price, it is the change in prices over time. So when prices change over time, if the inflation rate comes down, it doesn't mean prices are coming down. The rate of increase is just slowing down a little bit. But here's the thing, and this is important. So why is the Minister of Finance not reducing the inflation targets? Now that we're in this wonderful position where we can actually cut the inflation targets or reduce that. Why is he not doing that? And the reason why, and of course he's not going to admit this, but the reason why the Minister of Finance is reluctant to reduce the inflation targets now is because most of the inflationary pressures that we are experiencing in South Africa comes from so-called administrative prices. And administrative prices are prices that are not determined by supply and demand forces in the economy. So it's not a price that's determined or it's not a result of competition in the economy. It's somebody that makes a decision somewhere. And that's typically a bureaucrat somewhere. And the fuel price is an excellent example of that. It's illegal to sell fuel below the prescribed price, for example, because it's a fixed price right through the economy. It varies from region to region, but it's a price that is not determined by supply and demand forces. A bureaucrat makes this decision. There's a formula by way through which the petrol price is calculated. The same goes for Eskom prices, for example. Eskom, they ask NERSA, the energy regulator, we want a price increase of X. The last increase was something like 12%. And then they simply say this is the price, and that's it. You can't get electricity cheaper because Eskom is basically a monopoly. And this is the point here is that most of these administrative prices, like the fuel levy, like Eskom prices, like municipality levies and so on, are all basically set by bureaucrats. And of course, they do not operate in a competitive environment. They can basically do whatever they want to. And that is the main reason. That's the main source of inflationary pressures that we have in the economy. So if the Minister of Finance now goes and he reduces the inflation targets to, say, 3%, for example, and Eskom comes and asks for another 10% increase, there will be a huge spotlight now on Eskom, and everybody will see that the actual price increase is not coming from the private sector. It comes from these so-called administrative prices. And of course, politically, that's very difficult not to allow the municipalities to increase their prices above a certain level, above the inflation rate and so on. So that is why it's so important to get low inflation and low inflation targets, because if somebody misbehaves, like Eskom, or like the municipalities, or like Transnet, and they increase their prices above the inflation rate, for example, they must have a very, very good reason. In a high inflationary environment, they can do whatever they want to, and nobody's going to see that. So that's the political angle behind this.
Yeah, when you say that, I think about the back and forth around the budget. I mean, we've had 3 iterations of it already, and part of the complaints were bureaucrats are making too many decisions outside of political considerations. So when you flag that, my ears prick a little bit. I know that the fuel levy hadn't been increased over the past 3 years, if I'm correct. But it is something that every time we run into a budget, it's something that people hope would remain as it is, saying that they worry about it doubling. I mean, over the past decade, it's more than doubled. What do you think government continues to rely on it as an easy revenue? I think you even said earlier that it's easier also to administer.
It is much cheaper and easier to administer. But, having said that, I must just tell you, if I had a say, I would do 2 things. I would actually increase the fuel levy much, much more, and I will increase the value-added tax also much more. Remember what I said earlier? About the redistributional effect of the fiscus in South Africa and who the actual taxpayers are. In fact, when you look at, for example, personal income taxes, personal income taxes, there are very few individuals that pay just about all the personal income taxes, and that's the main revenue source to the Minister of Finance. But in the case of personal income taxes, we are over what economists call the Laffer curve. And the Laffer curve means that if you increase those taxes further, your collections will actually fall. Because people will simply emigrate, or they will aggressively organize their tax affairs, or they will stop working or whatever. Let me give you a simple example. If you levy 0% tax on an income, then you will get all the revenue that you want, or at 0%. But if you levy at 100%, you will also get 0, because nobody's going to work. Because, why should I work if I have to pay everything to the state? So in the case of personal income taxes, we are already over the so-called Laffer curve. And the personal income tax, but especially company taxes, are hugely damaging to the economy, because that makes it very unattractive to invest in South Africa, and companies move out of the country and so on. So we want company taxes lower. So what I would have done, I would have increased personal income, increased value-added tax, or even the fuel levy as well, and I would have reduced company taxes. And before poor people are going to come down on me like a ton of bricks, remember, companies do not pay taxes. Companies shift their tax burden always down to individuals. It is either the shareholder or the consumer that's going to pay for an increase in company taxes. Companies in the end simply do not pay company taxes. So it will be much better to increase VAT, for example, and rather reduce the more damaging taxes, like, for example, company taxes. Also, what one can do, remember, it is better if you want to help the poor, rather not help the poor by zero-rating some items from VAT, for example. It's much better to help the poor directly on the expenditure side. So rather increase your various grants instead of zero-rating some items. And there are many reasons for that. Because if you zero-rate some items, then it makes it easier the system becomes more corruptible, and you distort all sort of prices, and you don't know what it's going to cost you. But if you spend money directly on the poor, then you can see how much money you're actually spending. You can target it better. While if you reduce VAT on certain items, for example, the rich also benefit from that. So those are some of the reasons why I would have increased VAT and why I would have increased the fuel levy, but reduced some other more damaging taxes like company taxes.
Just before I let you go, the EFF lost its matter before the High Court. It had taken the fuel levy increase to the Western Cape High Court. That matter was dismissed. Outer had said yesterday that the minister had done everything he needed to do in order to get over the line. What do you think the EFF did wrong? What could have been done differently to successfully deal with that issue?
Well, this is this is a legal question. Don't ask me the legal question, but I can give you the kind of philosophical answer to this.
Let's give that a go.
The philosophical answer to this is that, we elect certain political leaders, and they must decide how revenue should be, what taxes should be increased or whatever. And from that point of view, I actually agree with the EFF, because the Minister of Finance should put this in front of Parliament, and he has. He has put it in front of Parliament by way of the budget, his budget proposals, and Parliament accepted that. So through the democratic process, it has been accepted. But what I would have liked to see is more debate around these various taxes, and let people be better informed about various taxes and effect thereof on the economy. And I think from that point of view, the EFF perhaps could have had a point.
All right. I will not ask you another political question, but I do think that 2025 has been a lot of learning for a lot of us around the budget, even these levies. Davi, this is not where the country was. These are not discussions we've been having. So I think that it's maybe positive that we are having more of these kind of conversations. Yes, no?
Very much so, very much so. I've been analyzing the budget. This would have been my 40th budget that I've analyzed. And I mean, I've been breathing this for the last 40 years. I think I know how the budget and fiscal accounts work, and it's a good thing. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's a fiscal expert nowadays, but it's a good thing so that people know where the money comes from, where the money goes to, because in the end, the budget actually goes to the heart of a democracy.
All right, thank you so much for that input. Thank you so much. That's Davi Ruot explaining there the question that someone asked us to explain the fuel levy. I've got a couple of voice notes in reaction to Davi's comments. Take a listen.
Hey, Tshidi, this guy with the tax guy, I like the way he explains. I got it when he said tax really excites him, like the academic side of it, and it really comes through. I can't say I agree with everything he says, but it's refreshing and to hear somebody who sounds like he knows what he's talking about. You get what I'm saying? So even when he says, increase the VAT and all that, the fuels and whatever, and minimize company takes, there's stuff I wouldn't have agreed with initially, but having somebody like him who sounds like him come up with something like that, which kind of sounds counterproductive, I'd go with him because, hey man, he sold me. He definitely convinced me. He knows what he's talking about. So kudos to him.
Thank you so much for that WhatsApp that's coming from Tato, who says he now understands. So Tato says, now you understand why the VAT had to be hiked. I don't know. I get it. He's qualified it. And I think that's part of the important thing. I think my greatest takeaway from this year is we are trying to have those kind of conversations about our money, right? Some people don't even care for the state of the nation. They wait for budget. And the back and forth we've seen over the past few months around the budget tells you something important. I'm aggrieved that the fuel levy has taken away from us feeling that reprieve at the pumps as far as the fuel is concerned. It is 11:30. After the headlines, we're going to go to the sharing space. But for now, here's Mike Imolapo with your headlines.
Thanks, Tshidi. Good morning. 3 students have been arrested during protest action at the Walter Sisulu University's Mthatha main campus. Students blocked the N2 highway near the campus this morning, burning tires and rubble. The students are angry after the man accused of killing student Sisonke Mbolekwa was granted bail. Mbolekwa was killed during a student protest over residence issues on campus back in April. The state in the asbestos trial has confirmed it plans to appeal the Bloemfontein High Court judgment that overturned Moradi Chalota's extradition from the US. Chalota, who is the ex-PA of former Free State Premier Ace Magashule, was let off on a technicality when the court ruled her 2024 extradition was unlawful and unconstitutional yesterday. Before then, she was among more than a dozen accused facing corruption charges in the 255 million rand asbestos case. And 11 children have been buried alive under a collapsed sand pit in Nigeria. The children aged between 4 and 9 were excavating sand for making mud bricks when the pit outside Yadoka village in Kaduna State collapsed yesterday. They were from an informal madrasa or Islamic religious school. Children from poor backgrounds are often sent to madrasas to learn the Quran, and many beg in the streets or take on menial jobs to pay the school fees. Those are the headlines. This Eyewitness News and more at midday or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
In Rivonia, we still have got that accident on the Rivonia Road exit just before the N1, causing delays there. There's also queuing traffic along Winnie Mandela Drive in the Fourways area towards Leslie. While traveling in Sharon Lee, do expect a slight backup really along Malibongo Drive towards the N1. If you're traveling in the Crown City area, do expect delays along the M2 West between the Crown Interchange and Main Reef Road. There's also queuing traffic along the N3 North between Van Buren Road and the Kilulis Interchange. I'll have more updates for you. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
John Perlman. Weekday afternoons,
3 to 6.
What are you looking to change? Do you want to change the words of the Constitution? Or do you want the legislation, for example, that governs access to housing to be reframed and changed?
We recognize that there is noble intent in the preamble when it says South Africa belongs to all who live in it. And we are a very diverse country, and I believe that the crafters of our Constitution bore that in mind when they made that determination. However, what we're seeing in South Africa is that there are many people who are not South Africans living in our country.
John Perlman.
3 to 6 on 702.
So you've heard OUTsurance clients talking about all the money they saved when they switched. You've thought about getting a quote, but you're not sure if they could save you money on your car insurance or if it's worth the effort. Well, make today the day you get an OUTsurance quote. SMS out to 45142. That's out to 45142. If OUTsurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask them for 500 Rand cash. And make that 1,500 Rand cash if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Monthly savings on your car insurance or cash in your pocket. Either way, you're a winner, like Tulani.
fast, helpful, efficient. Everything was so smooth. I saved 530 bucks.
Make today the day you switch and save. SMS out to 45142. That's out to 45142. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Don't let colds and flu slow you down. Adcock Ingram Winter Warriors is here. Your trusted defense against colds and flu symptoms. Be prepared for everything winter throws your way. Fight the pain and fever with Panado or Compro. Relieve your sore throat and coughs with Cepacol. And guard your immune system and gut with Gummy Bites and Probiflora. Adcock Ingram Winter Warriors. Your defense starts here. Ask your pharmacist about Adcock Ingram Winter Warriors.
Every small business owner knows that you gotta dream big to achieve even bigger. And Nedbank Business Ignite on 702 understands that it takes guts and determination to show up for your customers and expand your business and your bottom line. That's why we're looking for all the SMEs of Gauteng that dare to reinvent, expand, and shake things up. You could win 200,000 Rand in cash and a 200,000 Rand advertising package to help you chase your small business dreams. So, if you're a small business that dares to level up, enter on igniteyourbusiness.co.za for Nedbank Business Ignite on 702. T's and C's apply. Nedbank, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
The Sharing Space
on the Clement Manyathela Show.
702.
All right, it is a Wednesday, it's 11:35, and as per usual, we bring you the Sharing Space where one of the listeners from the show has sent in a problem, an issue, and wants you to weigh in, to give your opinion and to give your guidance in navigating this particular matter. So today, I'll read this email that's come through to the Clement Show. It says, greetings, I hope you're well. I'm a young woman who recently gotten married about 2 months ago. After my wedding, I had a fallout with one of my close friends because of her etiquette. I had strict rules at my wedding that no one should record the wedding on their phone. We had a professional videographer and photographer. I also had some people in my family that I'd asked to take some pictures and videos that we could access while the professional pictures and videos are being edited. To my surprise, I saw my friend taking videos and pictures at my wedding. I could not reprimand her at the time, but I was further disappointed when I learned that she had a video call with one of her other acquaintances who was not invited to my wedding to show them what was happening on the day. Furthermore, she posted the pictures and videos she took of our festivities on her social media platforms where they were seen by people I had not invited and did not want to share this journey with. We had a huge fight afterwards, and she said she didn't think it would be a big deal. She also said I was being unfair by not expecting people to take pictures or record my wedding. I felt like I wanted to have the best videos and pictures of me for all my guests to distribute, but I can understand that it was unreasonable to ask people not to take any content of the day. But I still feel like she was wrong to share my wedding visuals with people who are not invited. Am I wrong? That's the question. So she had a wedding. She had rules at the wedding that nobody should take pictures and video. The only people who do so are those who are designated. She had asked for professionals to do the videography work, the photographer. She had asked for some people in her family to take pictures in between. So family members as well as friends who would help while they wait for the professionals to be edited. But she then sees a friend. Yeah, I'd be angry. Sees a friend on a video call at her wedding, showing somebody else her wedding, somebody who's not invited to the wedding. So those are some of the issues that she's raising. And she says that she's been upset. She didn't want pictures of herself that she didn't sanction. She wanted to have some sort of control, I think, on what the day looked like, even to the broader public. So she's asking for you to weigh in. Is she unfair? Is she not being unfair? Is the friend in the wrong? The friend who not only took pictures and videos, video called somebody at the wedding, but also then put them on social media and shared them with people who were not invited to that particular wedding. Anonymous saying that she wanted the best of herself to be put out in the public. She wanted the best of her guests even to be put out in public. There are rules like that. I think it's not unique, right? You go to weddings now, baby showers, and there are rules where people are saying, do not play, do not take these videos or don't post in real time. I know a lot of other weddings where they say don't post these events in real time. People will post what happened days later. They don't want to share that moment of joy. 011-883-0702 if you want to call in to give Anonymous some advice. 072-702-1702 if you want to send a WhatsApp or a voice note. Is she overreacting? Is she the one in the wrong? Is her friend in the wrong for failing to respect her privacy? How are you video calling somebody and showcasing them someone's wedding when they're not invited? You can call in and send voice notes through.
The Sharing Space
on the Clement Manyathela Show.
702.
Good morning, Tshidi. Nice show. About the lady, I think she's overreacting. She must first know that, people, first thing they do is take videos and pictures of something great. That's a celebration. And obviously with a celebration, they want to take it forward to other people, to show other people how great her wedding was. I think she was a little bit unfair, and it's not a big deal. She got married, and the bigger point here is that she got married. And I think she should focus on that. Thanks, TD. Nice show. Freddie, Boxburg.
The bigger point, she got married. She must focus on that. Messages coming through on the WhatsApp line. The bride is unreasonable. She should have made a disclaimer before the photos, or to say that photos are not allowed. I think that's an important point. What did you say? Another message saying, hey, Anonymous is a drama queen, man. Is that how people feel? Hoverson, I think. Hoverson in Pretoria. Hi. Hoverson?
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, yeah.
I was saying, I think the person is overreacting. I mean, it's the wedding. It's not a vault. It's not a bank vault where people will come and take money. It's just a photo. Actually, I mean, sometimes you find out that maybe your mom, you told your mom that you are going to a wedding and everything, then they just wanted to check up on you, and then you just take a video call and say, Mom, no, you can see I'm here, and then I'll call you later. What's wrong about that? I think I was overreacting.
But you know, Hoverson, sometimes, because she says here she wanted to put the best pictures of her day out. Sometimes people take bad angles. Fighting with Karabo, he takes really fantastic pictures. But I'm like, hey, angle. People sometimes take bad angles. So the bride might have been worried about what she looks like in those images, no?
But ma'am, you must understand that she is the bride, and then she people will look upon to have photos and videos that she or he uploads, not to a person who was invited. No, that doesn't count. That doesn't count.
Those rules don't count.
If I'm your friend and I know that you are wedding, you are getting married, everything that I will look upon is the things that you download yourself, not from other people. Because of people, we don't use the same phones, we don't use the same way. I understand.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Avison. It is also about shared memories. You're also taking away from those people, I guess. Tulu in Santon, hi.
Hi, I think she's not being unreasonable at all. In this content-greedy world, you have every right to tell people who are coming to your event that you don't want them to take pictures or to upload onto their social media. You will share pictures with them. I think it's no different from telling people not to take pictures of your kids. It's your event, it's your personal space, it's your privacy, and it should be respected by people who are attending that space.
All right, Tulu, thank you so much. So that is a thing that the bride does raise with us, saying that she felt that her friend was unfair. Her friend told her she's unfair by not expecting people to take pictures or to record themselves at the weddings. Fiso, hi in Midrand.
Hi, Tulu, how are you? How are you?
Good.
Good. So then I do agree with Tulu that people she was well within her right. She's not overreacting, and we should respect people's privacies. We're not the same, and so if she said it prior, it's an etiquette, then let it be so, So because I really agree with what Tulu said. It's such a content greedy world, so she's well within her rights. It's her privacy, it's her life.
All right, thank you so much, Fiso. That's Fiso out in Midrand. Fiso emphasizing the importance of respecting people's privacy. Mpumi in Bramfontein.
Hi, Tshidi. Nice talking to you. So I feel that if she has already said no one should take videos and cell phones. Then she should have added that please don't bring your cell phone or leave it in your car. If you coming with your cell phone, are going to screen you and you're going to take it, label it and put it safely. You are not allowed to have a cell phone with you. In that way, you have control. But if you only say people should not take videos and they have their cell phones with them, they will be edgy to take, pictures. You've got no control. Much as people will even sit on the table as families, and they will be sitting and busy on their cell phones. You've got no control there. She allowed for that loophole. She allowed for that to happen. Then she's also to blame. She mustn't complain.
All right, thank you so much, Mpumi, out in Braamfontein. So she could have had tighter measures, tighter restrictions. She could have confiscated cell phones. Victor in Randburg, your thoughts about the bride's rules, the bride not wanting her pictures taken, videos by anybody but those that she's appointed to take pictures at the wedding.
Yes, thank you. Interesting topic, as I said. I'm not disagree with the lady, but I think she also very active, like people say. Just to want to share something from my perspective is that my daughter was also recently married 2 weeks ago, and we've got photos and videos from friends and that. And to be honest, we got best photos and videos and smiles and laughter and everything from the people around us that what the photographer did. Obviously, the best photos come from the photographer, but the fun and the thing we had afterwards, it's much more valuable than anything out of complaint. I'm not sure why she's concerned about having her in the public domain like that.
Congratulations to your daughter. Congratulations to your family. And you're saying that the moment actually lies in what's been captured by everybody else around you. That's Victor out in Randburg. I'm going to play a couple of your voice notes now.
Look, I totally do understand what she means, that she doesn't want anybody to take pictures because the photographer is the one taking all the pictures. Speaking from a photographer's point of view, you do get guests that wants to take pictures, but they do that because of excitement. And also a friend taking those images is just because she was excited for a friend. And we as photographers, we are lenient when it comes to that. We do allow people to take their own pictures and create their own content. But she also needs to understand that the excitement was there for everyone and they want to share that moment with her. So I think she should maybe just stop the bridezilla tendencies and just ask a friend for forgiveness. There's nothing wrong with just taking some pictures over the phone and sharing it with people that they care about. It's only excitement.
Hi, Tshidi. No, the friend was wrong. There was protocol, there were rules in terms of what must happen at the wedding, in terms of etiquette and everything. On this one, no, the friend was totally out of order and wrong. Thanks.
Good morning, Tshidi. Good show as always. Yeah, I think Anonymous is not wrong. She's by all means 100% correct. She must just get rid of that friend because she's so disrespectful. Yeah, people have lost manners. People have lost respect for other people's events. People must have boundaries all the time. If someone says no to this, a no is a no. Don't go against their will and showcase things that are not supposed to be put out there by anyone else other than the person who was getting married. So I don't blame Anonymous. She's within a right. Get rid of that friend. Thanks, Siri.
Thank you so much for that. David is in Joburg. Hi, David.
Hello, Judy. Hopefully you can hear me. I'm driving, so I might be...
loud and clear. You're coming through loud and clear. Go ahead.
So I personally think the anonymous bride is a little bit psycho, and if she was my friend, I would ditch her. And if I got to the wedding and hold out my phone at the table so that I could take pictures of my wife or the people at my table or even the first waltz, which is going to be a bad picture because it won't be professional, I would probably get up and walk out and say, if that's your attitude, you want to sort of limit my enjoyment of this event, I'd probably get up and leave, frankly.
All right,
so I take a very different view from the other people. And you could extend this to any of the social occasions. So you come to my house for a bride, Judy, and the first thing I do is I ask you to check your cell phone in the door because I don't want you taking pictures of how badly I'm cooking your meats. You know, I mean, We can really get ridiculous about this.
Okay, thank you, David. That's David out in Joburg. You could take the phone away literally at the door. Somebody did say earlier that you could have just simply confiscated phones. Sandile in Randburg, hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good, Sandile. You don't agree with the idea of video calling. Yeah, I also struggle with like video calling somebody who's not invited to the wedding and showing them the wedding reception.
Yes. I personally think on the bride, she was wronged by her friend because this was a simple instruction for the ones that were invited, the candidates, to simply like we should respect each other's wishes, especially because this is like a wedding, and a wedding is something spiritual in life. It's not just fun and games wearing a bride. It's actually a life journey, and it's something that you really would like to keep private. When you go sign a marriage, you do it together with the man. There's no audience. So the wedding is just a celebration. So her asking for, please don't take pictures, it's mainly because don't show the world before it's time. Don't leak the footage. It's like showing a secret meeting and showing it to the world.
Yeah.
So that's an invasion of privacy on my side.
Yeah, all right.
The guests nowadays with technology on the rise, really weddings must not even be taken pictures of. Because if you think about 1800 when people got married, were they phones to take off like birds?
But Sunday, those were the times. There were no phones to do that. One can make an argument that she could have actually, somebody said it actually earlier, like she could have had a disclaimer. She could have actually set the rules in place a long time ago to try and manage that kind of thing. But I take your point. Thank you so much. That's Sandile out in Randburg. I see Mpo in Midrand.
Hi, Tshidi, how are you doing? And good afternoon, good day to the listeners. Or it's not good day, good morning to the listeners. Yeah, I'm just asking myself, why Anonymous didn't have that a wedding alone with other people as she was restricting them? Because people are coming there to have fun and enjoy with her. Why do you restrict them, tell them not to do certain things?
You can't restrict an enjoyment, but you can have rules, guys. Sometimes people want to keep some things closed for a little bit. Thank you, Mpo. Thank you,
Yeah,
Mpo.
but if you want to give it away from people, then do it in a secret place alone without those people. Because these people also want to create their memories and all those things. And this is the time to do those memories at your wedding.
Okay, Mpo. Thank you so much. I want to try to get all the calls in today. Sister in Parktown, hi.
I see the hour. I don't agree.
Eh.
Do your own wedding if you want the world to see. I mean, really, it's my wedding. You are invited there. Instead of you even enjoying the wedding, we're not busy paparazzi or video caller, your friends showing.
But that's
them
part of the
my
enjoyment, though,
event.
sister. As somebody flagged earlier, like that's where the joy and the memories sometimes lie. That's where you capture the real feelings, the real emotions, not something choreographed by a photographer.
No, Tshidi, this is my wedding. If you want your things to be seen, do your own event. And secondly, the worst thing is putting everything on social media. Some people don't even want to be on social media. And some guests prefer to not even be there. And we are particular about how we look.
We want to
on
be
these
viewed.
places.
Absolutely, absolutely.
We're not busy. We posted the guest saga. There is not even permission to do that. When you are there for what? I mean, this is ridiculous.
All right.
There's no respect. None of people Ben as a friend.
Ooh, okay, sister out in Parktown. Cindy in Sampton, hi. I'm going to come to you just now, Pearl in Cape Town. Give me 2 seconds, yeah. Cindy, go ahead.
Hi, Tshidi. I personally think this is a friendship that is already in ICU. I doubt if that's the only friend that actually shared the pictures. However, they did. Because now my question is, how did a whole bride in a white dress get to know that I'm calling a certain friend with a video call?
I think she saw. You can see when somebody's on video call. She said she could see, but she could not. She says she could not reprimand them at the time, so she could see it from far that person is on a video call at my wedding.
To see that small little picture of the person you are calling, because on the phone while you are busy trying to get married. No, this is a friendship that is in ICU. My take it is a friendship that is already in ICU and not stable.
The other problems, okay.
Yes, she must just cut off her friend because she doesn't want her anymore.
All
it
right,
doesn't matter
thank
what
you.
you do, you are never going to be good enough.
All right,
She's definitely not the only person who probably shared those pictures. It's just that there was a spotlight.
She's picking on her. All right, thank you. That's Cindy out in Santon. Pearl in Cape Town. Sorry for keeping you holding, Pearl.
No worries. You know, today the lady that just spoke now, just before me, she said it all. I wanted also to say it is this thing of having friends in our circles that we don't really trust. Now, she's saying she called the person that was not at the wedding, was not invited. So I am assuming that it's a person that is in their circles that was not invited. So they had issues. So now she's picking on this one because she's thinking at the back of her mind that she's probably phoning that other friend that was not invited. So there's issues in that friendship or in that group of friends. But you know what they say? Girls will be girls.
Girls will be girls. Thank you so much. That's Pearl out in Cape Town. Gonna go to the WhatsApp line. There's so many messages that have come through. Here's one from Kumo in Hammanskraal. Says the Met Gala has strict instructions to follow when you're invited. One of them being no phones allowed, but Kimo, the Kardashians still sneak theirs in. The friend Yenawa Papa. That was disrespectful, but it happened. And the friend probably apologized, so life must go on. That's Kumo out in Hammanskraal. Kumo, thank you for the other message about that I'm not going to read. Her friend was out of line. Her friend was out of line. You should be able to honor the bride's wishes at her wedding. If it's too difficult, don't go to the wedding. Also, you're an adult. Have some self-control. I think that's a big one. Anonymous also here saying, I think she shouldn't have invited anyone. People went all out to get dressed, spend money on hairstyles, so on and so forth. It's not fair. Alternatively, you should have a very small circle. I'm going to play more of your voice notes now.
Hi, Tshidi. Kosana here. Was the wedding a secret of some sort or what? Or because she should have, as you say, she should have made a disclaimer about that. Was it supposed to be a secret or what? Was the wedding supposed to be secret, or because people are people? People will share every celebration wherever they go.
The friend was wrong, Tshidi. She was asked not to do that, and she went ahead and did it. She must just go open a case. It's a Poppy Act. She didn't get permission.
The idea we came up with when our kids got married was the following. We bought a whole lot of disposable cameras, 15 or 20, I can't remember. Placed it on each table and asked the friends to please take photos throughout the evening. And at the end of the evening, drop the disposable cameras at the exit. We then took those photos, had them developed, and that way we had the professional photos from the photography we had hired, and we had the fun photos taken with the disposable cameras that we could control. Hope it helps.
Hi, Tshidi. I don't think people understand how social media works. Social media can take an innocent video or picture of you on your wedding day with your bride or your groom and turn it into something nasty. They start analyzing that you are not smiling, that your eyes say you look unhappy, that you're on your phone. It means you're talking to someone else that you really love, and all really nasty conclusions, and it can go viral based on these nasty conclusions. And really no one wants to be subjected to social media and social media analysis of your wedding day, which is why you want to have control of what goes up onto social media. And I think people...
Thank you so much for all your voice notes, WhatsApps, and calls on this. I think Anonymous is taking in all your different perspectives. I like the idea of the disposable cameras, right? I do think you need a disclaimer. You need to manage those rules a little bit more. And you need to allow people to also enjoy the day that you've invited them to participate in. Like, that's a thing. We take weddings at photos all the time. I'm going to speak to Mandy. In fact, I was at a wedding with Mandy last month, and we're taking pictures of ourselves all over the place. But thank you so much for your input.
Dear Journal, trying to be an adult, day 3247. My financial advisor asked if I was expecting any inheritance. I said, I don't have a trust fund, but I trust that funds will find their way to my bank account. He was not amused.
Recently removed from the family payroll? Get covered at pineapple.co.za. It's like 570 Rand a month, so it's 100% the insurance for you. Underwritten by Old Mutual Alternative Risk Transfer Insurer Limited, licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP. Premiums are risk profile dependent.
Honey, what are you doing?
I'm stretching for tonight.
I thought you're not dancing at bachelorette parties anymore.
Baby, we need the money to put Johnny through matric mos.
And what's the police uniform for?
The clients feel safer when I wear it.
No, man, just sell your bakkie to We Buy Cars. They give the best prices and they pay you within minutes.
Okay, but can I just go and dance one more time, please? You know how much I love it.
No, the buyer's already on his way here.
Wow, okay.
Strapped for cash? Just sell your vehicle to We Buy Cars. The easiest way to sell your car by far.
Some walks are just for exercise, others for leisure. But this walk is for something greater.
It's team building.
This July, you won't just take a step, you'll take a stand. You'll walk through history. You'll walk with it. On Sunday, 27 July, the 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane, returns. It's a route that winds through the heart and soul of our capital city. From the sacred grounds of Freedom Park to the powerful steps of the Union buildings. Choose the 8 kilometer for those walking strong, the 6.7 kilometer in honor of Mandela Month, or the 4 kilometer for families and first-timers. Entries are 360 Rand for adults, 200 Rand for children under 12. Enter now on primemediaplus.com. 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane, is where footsteps become footprints.
Coming up on the Midday Report with Mandy Wiener.
It's 12 o'clock. On the other side, of course, of this will be Mandy Wiener with the Midday Report. Mandy, I see a lot of action at the Walter Sisulu University. I think there's a lot on the go. What else on the show?
Yeah, three students arrested there following a protest. There's been a shootout between illegal miners and police in Rivoli.
Jeez.
We'll get to the latest there. Ace Makashule has been complaining about the delays in his trial. That matter has been postponed to January. We'll get it up to speed with the Craddock 4 inquest, and then it's World Oceans Day. We'll look at whether there are enough fish in the sea.
Interesting. All of that and more coming up between 12 and 1 o'clock with Mandy on the Midday Report on my end. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for engaging with us. It's now 12 o'clock. Here's your Eyewitness News with Mikey Mula.
This is EWN.
Good afternoon, I'm Maki Molapo. We begin in the west of Johannesburg. Gauteng police have launched a manhunt following the discovery of a body at the Zamimpilo informal settlement in Rivoli. Police say they were conducting a routine patrol in the area last night when they identified a suspicious vehicle with 3 people in it. When they tried to stop the Toyota bakkie from driving away, the vehicle fled the scene, leading them into the informal settlement. Police spokesperson Mavela Masondo explains that there was an exchange of fire between the police and the suspects.
The police tried to stop the vehicle, but the driver ignored them and sped off. A chase ensued and the suspects turned into Zamimpilo informal settlement. As the police were searching for the suspects, they were shot at by the people who were in the informal settlement and they returned fire.
In the Eastern Cape, 3 suspects have been arrested during protest action at the Walter Sisulu University's Mthatha main campus. Students blocked the N2 highway near the campus this morning, burning tires and rubble. The students are angry after the man accused of killing student Sisonke Mbolekwa was granted bail. Mbolekwa was killed during a student protest over residence issues on campus back in April. Maneli Simampani, a residence manager arrested for Mbolekwa's murder, was granted 10,000 Rand bail yesterday. Nhlanhla Mabaso has more.
Students at the Walter Sisulu University main campus in Mthatha blocked the national route, protesting against the release of Manelise Mampane, accused of killing student Sisonke Mbolekwa. Students want Mampane kept behind bars, citing safety concerns. The protest has disturbed academic programs at the institution. Police spokesperson Nobuntu Gantana.
We condemn reported acts of vandalism, arson, road blockages, and intimidation. Such criminal conduct diverts critical resources from the investigation and undermines the pursuit of justice.
Police say the 3 students will be charged with public violence, damage to infrastructure, and damage to property. Nhlanhla Mabaso, Eyewitness News.
In the Free State, the state in the asbestos trial has confirmed it plans to appeal the Bloemfontein High Court judgment that overturned Moradi Chalota's extradition from the US. Chalota, who is the ex-PA of former Free State Premier Ace Magashule, was let off on a technicality when the court ruled her 2024 extradition was unlawful and unconstitutional yesterday. Before then, she was among more than a dozen accused facing corruption charges in the 255 million rand asbestos case. At the start of today's proceedings, State Prosecutor Advocate Johan Donation asked for another postponement to deal with the possible appeal.
The prima facie view is that we shall appeal this judgment, either by joining the Schultz matter, which is already before the Constitutional Court on appeal by the state, or alternatively by approaching the SCA.
A frustrated Magashule stood up before court and protested the request.
The state has always been saying they are ready. It looks like we don't have rights. Because now and then, even if you meet next year, it's going to be another postponement.
Members of police union Pop Crew plan to march to some training facilities in protest against allegations of sexual assault. This after trainees in various facilities in parts of the country reported incidents of sexual abuses against them by trainers and other members in the learning centres. The union and its members, including shop stewards, will start their picket this afternoon at the training academy in Hammanskraal, Pretoria, as well as in Moloto, Mpumalanga tomorrow. Pop Crew Gauteng Secretary Lerata Mutsiri says they will be handing over a memorandum demanding investigations into all reported sexual abuse cases and implementation of abuse prevention policies. He added that they are calling for an independent oversight structure to monitor the implementation of measures to prevent these abuses.
We believe it is critical that everyone who interacts with trainees, whether instructors, support staff or external parties, undergo continuous training on issues of consent, power dynamics, professionalism and respect for human dignity, particularly across all sexual orientations and gender identities.
And there's been a delay to the start of a parliamentary meeting, which expected to adopt a report on the fiscal framework which underpins the budget. Today, parliamentarians complained about the small venue and the inadequate seating for a joint meeting of two finance committees to consider the important report. The EFF's Umpile Mautwe also objected to the proceedings not being live-streamed after the last meeting on the fiscal framework for the now aborted second version of the budget also had limited public access due to the small space.
We can't rely on a recording gadget. There are instances where you need the visuals. And as I'm saying, the last budget that was tabled by Minister Godongwana, which landed in court, we needed to go and view what is happening. This is the most critical committee that deals with the treasury of this country. No department will move beyond this point if this committee does not find each other.
However, Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana appealed for the meeting to continue after MPs bemoaned Treasury's absence at a precursory meeting on the report yesterday.
Our understanding of the meeting yesterday was, in terms of the money bills, was that that's the period when the committee meets as a committee and deliberate on the adoption of the report to be tabled in the National Assembly. Our absence must be understood in that context. I just wanted to, Chairperson, to clarify that was not deliberately.
The meeting has since resumed after a short adjournment to allow for an alternative venue to be found that will also allow for proceedings to be live-streamed. Gold's trading at $3,363.05 an ounce. The rand's at 17.81 to the dollar, at 24.11 to the pound, at 20.28 to the euro. Brent crude oil's at $65.73 a barrel. A look at your weather. Clear skies on Gauteng this afternoon. Temperatures are peaking at highs between 20 and 22 degrees. The mother city is also fine this afternoon with fresh southeasterly winds at a high of 17 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour. Gauteng police have launched a manhunt following the discovery of a body at the Zamimpilo informal settlement in Rivoli.